Chapter 613. Their principle was not to stop it but to encourage it. This was because only students who had truly experienced life and death could successfully graduate and be qualified as agents. After all, what they did was some bloody missions. Soon, Xiaoma wrote 2 life and death contracts and placed them in front of Xiao Qin and Pang Fengde. Okay, sign it. Pang Fengde sneered and looked at Xiao Qin. Oh, I won't sign it, said Xiao Qin. What? Pang Fengde was mad. You sign it first, then I'll sign it. Xiao Qin said calmly, why should I sign it just because you tell me to? Fine. Pang Fengde snorted and ignored Xiao Qin. He was already numb. He signed it and then looked at Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin also signed the life and death contract and said, okay Xia Shibin, help me keep a copy. Let's go up. Hee, but don't worry, when the time comes, if you kneel and beg for mercy, I can consider not beating you to death. Pang Fengde raised his head provocatively at Xiao Qin and said, however, disability is inevitable. Oh, since you are so kind, then I won't kill you, said Xiao Qin. You have a sharp tongue. Pang Fengde curled his lips. What? You won't be willing if I don't kill you? Xiao Qin snorted. Fine, then leave it to fate. Yang Jianan, if you have the ability, then kill us. If you don't have the ability, then don't brag, okay? Ma Jisheng was on the side and said disdainfully, don't run away in fear later. Xiao Qin shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, I won't run, but I'm afraid that he will run. I guess once I make a move, he will disappear. Pang Fengde was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He wasn't a match for Xiao Qin in terms of words, and he was constantly being mocked by Xiao Qin. He couldn't help but angrily say, what else can you do besides shooting off your mouth? Xiao Qin said with a smile, I'll beat you to death. Okay, the elevator will be here soon. This elevator can go straight to the rooftop. At that time we will compete on the rooftop. Pang Fengde didn't want to argue with Xiao Qin, so he said this. Oh, it's so slow to take the elevator. Xiao Qin looked at the emergency staircase on the side. Let's take the stairs. When Ma Jisheng heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I say, Yang Jianan, you haven't even started fighting and your brain is already failing? Can the stairs be faster than the elevator? What if I say yes? Xiao Qin asked back to provoke him. If there is, I will eat the elevator. Ma Jisheng said disdainfully. Even if you eat the hotel building, it has nothing to do with me. I have no benefits at all. Xiao Qin said. Then what do you want? Ma Jisheng finally found a loophole in what he thought was Xiao Qin's words, so he directly grasped it. Meh. How about this? You take the elevator and I take the stairs. If I'm faster than you, you give me some money? Right, Xia Shibin, how much money does this guy have? Xiao Qin squinted and asked sneakily. He usually hangs around behind Pang Fengde. His salary and bonuses are all saved. He doesn't need to spend much. It's estimated that he has 5 million yuan. Xia Shibin estimated based on his own situation. Okay, then 5 million yuan. If I lose, I will also give you 5 million yuan. How about it? Xiao Qin laughed. Ma Jisheng calculated for a moment. The elevator in this hotel was the kind that went straight up. The speed was very fast. Even if someone called for the elevator halfway, it wouldn't take much time. If Xiao Qin climbed to the 40th floor from here, he was afraid that he would be tired. He definitely couldn't win. Moreover, in this way Xiao Qin's physical strength would be consumed. In the next competition with Pang Fengde, he would definitely not have an advantage. So why not? Sure enough, Pang Fengde also calculated this point. He said directly to Ma Jisheng, bet with him. If you lose, it's on me. Okay, Yang Jianan. Since you are willing, try it. After Ma Jisheng finished speaking, he pointed at Xia Shibin and said, but in a while when we get in the elevator, you are not allowed to mess around. You can't press the button on every floor. That is cheating. Seeing that Xiao Qin didn't care, Xia Shibin said, no problem. Okay, the elevator is here. Let's split up. Xiao Qin saw the elevator light up and walked to the stairwell. At the moment when the elevator door opened, he also rushed into the safety stairwell. The few of them entered the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. To Pang Fengde and Ma Jisheng's surprise, no one seemed to be calling the elevator at this time. Their elevator whizzed all the way to the 10th floor without stopping even once. Aha, this time Yang Jianan will definitely lose. Ma Jisheng was so happy that his face was blooming. Then brother De, the 5 million that you won? It's yours. Pang Fengde waved his hand and said confidently. In front of Song Huawu he had to be more generous. Song Huawu graduated from the newcomer training group. When he and Song Huawu were in the same batch, he always had a good impression of Song Huawu. Moreover, the most important thing was that Pang Fengde could also see that their old team leader instructor seemed to be related to Song Huawu. He didn't know the specifics, but if he could be related to Song Huawu, he would definitely be successful in the future. Because this relationship was very secretive, others didn't know about it. Even he only found out about it occasionally. Therefore, he deliberately performed well and won the old team leader's appreciation, which was why he was promoted to the current team leader. He didn't know if Yang Jianan knew about this situation, but he couldn't ask. However, all these years he was determined to get Song Huawu, but because of this relationship he didn't dare to use force. Otherwise wouldn't he, Pang Fengde, get the woman he liked? However, he didn't dare to. Even if he was already an expert at the 4th level of martial arts, he didn't dare to be so rash. The old team leader could still kill him with a slap. The elevator reached the top floor. When the elevator door opened, Pang Fengde, who was the strongest and had the highest status, went down first. He walked out of the elevator proudly, and Ma Jisheng followed closely behind. However, as soon as he walked out of the elevator, Pang Fengde's crotch was kicked. Before the elevator door opened completely, he felt a sharp pain in his lower body. He immediately covered his crotch and squatted on the ground. The pain made his head full of sweat. The people who saw this scene from behind were all stunned. They never thought that Xiao Chen would actually be standing outside the elevator at this moment, calm and unruffled. What kind of speed was this? Not only was he faster than the elevator, but he also arrived early and stood at the door waiting to ambush them. This speed was simply unimaginable. Hey, didn't I tell you just now? You guys aren't as fast as me, but you still don't believe me. Hurry up and give me the money. Xiao Chen directly walked past Pang Fengde and extended his hand to Ma Jisheng, who was standing next to him in shock. This. Ma Jisheng originally thought that he would win for sure, but how did he lose? His smile was a little frozen. He looked at Pang Fengde, who was groaning in pain on the ground. He didn't want to ask for money, so he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. He was in a dilemma. Xia Shibin and Song Huawu looked at each other at this time. The corners of their mouths were raised, and their faces showed a speechless smile at the same time. Xiao Chen really won, but they didn't understand how Xiao Chen's speed was so fast. It was simply indescribable. What? You don't want to admit it? Xiao Chen squinted at Ma Jisheng. Do you want me to give you a kick too? Ma Jisheng looked at Pang Fengde's miserable appearance on the ground, and suddenly his head was full of sweat. If he were to be kicked, wouldn't he die from the pain? His strength was much worse than Pang Fengde's. A kick could probably cripple him. He didn't dare to try it casually. I will give it to you later. I don't have my bank card with me now, Ma Jisheng said. Oh, okay, then I will give you a little more time. That Pang Fengde, do you still want to compete? If you don't, I will take it as you admit defeat. Stay away from me in the future. Xiao Chen pointed at Pang Fengde on the ground and shouted. Ma Jisheng was a little speechless. I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen such a shameless person. You have already kicked him like that and you still want him to compete? Can't you let him rest for a while? Sure enough, Pang Fengde was also trembling with anger. His body's internal strength was surging, and white smoke was coming out of his head. Obviously he was extremely angry. Oh my god, what's going on? Xiao Chen looked at Pang Fengde and said strangely, why is there smoke? What kind of strange martial art is this? It even has the function of spontaneous combustion? Why? Pang Fengde jumped directly from the ground. Yang Jianan, I will fight with you. Don't. You put out the fire first. Don't burn it later. If you burn the hotel, I will be implicated. Xiao Chen retreated again and again. If you can't burn the hotel, it's not good to burn the flowers and plants. Humph, are you afraid? Seeing Xiao Chen retreating again and again, Pang Fengde regained his confidence at this moment. He felt that Xiao Chen was afraid of him. Otherwise, why would he retreat? This is just a villain who likes to talk and sneak attack. Thinking of this, Pang Fengde pressed forward step by step. He directly forced Xiao Chen to the edge of the top floor. Seeing that he had nowhere to retreat, he would fall down if he retreated any further. Haha, Yang Jianan, are you going to jump off the building? Pang Fengde said with a sneer. Of course not. Xiao Chen instantly changed his direction. How could his speed be compared to that of an ordinary martial artist? He made a big circle and went behind Pang Fengde. Then 2 compressed wind balls were released from his hands. The compressed wind balls instantly exploded and turned into 2 hurricanes, rushing towards Pang Fengde. Pang Fengde was just approaching Xiao Chen, and he was very close to the edge of the top floor. So, when he saw Xiao Chen run away, he felt 2 huge hurricanes sweeping towards him as soon as he turned his head. He was pushed a few steps back and he staggered. With a scream, he fell directly from the 48th floor. I helped you to put out the fire. Why did you jump off the building? Xiao Qin shook his head, and his face was inexplicable. This person is really strange. Sure enough, I was right. When I made a move, he disappeared. Chapter 6:14. The wind ball didn't actually cause much damage to the enemy. Xiao Qin rarely used it in battle. It was only recently researched. It could only push people away or roll them up, but it couldn't hurt the enemy. However, when used in this environment, it could achieve miraculous effects. Ma Jisheng was dumbstruck as he looked at Pang Fingda, who had fallen from the rooftop. He hurriedly rushed over, wanting to see how Pang Fingda was doing. However, when he ran to the edge, he was afraid that Xiao Qin would hit him again. With Pang Fingda's strength, he probably wouldn't die from falling from such a high building. However, if it was Ma Jisheng, it would be hard to say. This was the 48th floor. Stop the fight. I have already lost the bet. I will give you the money later. You can't do anything to me. Ma Jisheng shouted at Xiao Qin. Oh, okay. Xiao Qin said indifferently, you aren't on fire. I don't have to waste my energy to help you put out the fire. Ma Jisheng hurried to the edge of the rooftop and looked down. He found that Pang Fingda had fallen into the grass below with his arms wide open. His body was deep in the soil, and he didn't know if he was dead or alive. He was so scared that he quickly ran back and wanted to take the elevator downstairs to see the situation. At this time, there was already a commotion downstairs. After all, there weren't only people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau staying here. There were also some ordinary guests. They were scared when they saw someone suddenly jump off the building. Xiao Qin, did you really? Song Huawu couldn't help but be worried. It's okay. He won't die. He is a 4th-level martial artist. How can he die so easily? At most, he will be disabled. Xiao Qin said indifferently, is this person very powerful? He also has a backer in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and his backer is also someone who has helped me. Song Huawu suddenly felt a little embarrassed. It's the instructor I told you about. He also values Pang Fingda very much. He also hopes that I can be with him. Really? Xiao Qin frowned. He didn't expect there to be such a relationship. He didn't want Song Huawu to be put in a difficult position. He thought that Pang Fingda was just a simple pursuer of Song Huawu, but now it seemed that there was a connection. It's fine. Everyone knows that I'm Xia Zhili's man, and I had conflicts with him in the past. That's true. Song Huawu nodded. Forget it. As long as he doesn't die, he should be fine. Of course, the three of them weren't here to watch the night view. Since there was nothing else, they took the elevator downstairs, but they didn't go to see Pang Fingda. Instead, they returned to the room. Just as Xiao Qin had said, Pang Fingda had not died. It was just that the bones in his 4 limbs were broken. He was a 4th-layer martial master, so how could he have died so easily? Especially when he fell on a soft place like the lawn. Brother Da, are you okay? Ma Jisheng quickly helped Pang Fingda up. I'm fine. Although Pang Fingda was covered in dirt and his limbs were in pain, he was the leader of the newcomer training group of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Naturally, he couldn't be weak at this time. Nearby, many people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had come to watch the show. That's good. Ma Jisheng breathed a sigh of relief. Although Pang Fingda looked disheveled, it was good that he was fine. Help me to the hospital. Pang Fingda whispered in Ma Jisheng's ear. Ma Jisheng's heart tightened, but on the surface he said loudly, okay, let's go for supper. As he said that, he helped Pang Fingda leave. The guests of the hotel saw that the person seemed fine, so they didn't continue to watch and dispersed. Pang Fingda went to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's specialized hospital and applied some special medicine used by martial artists. He only had a bone fracture, but there was no fracture. So, after the special medicine was applied, he only needed to tighten the gauze. There was no need to put on a cast. At this time, a man in a black suit pushed open the door of the ward and quickly walked in. He said loudly, Old Pang, how is it? Is there anything wrong? It's Old Wang. The person who came was Wang Chake, a good friend of Pang Fingda in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. He was also the deputy team leader of Team B. It could be said that he was currently on the same level as Xiao Qin. Don't mention it. I was tricked. What happened? When I just arrived at the hotel, I heard someone say that you jumped off the building. Although everyone said that you looked fine, some people said that you were forcing yourself. I thought about it, so I came to our hospital. When I asked, you were really here, said Wang Chake. Xiaoma, tell me. Pang Fingda didn't hide anything from Wang Chake and let Xiaoma speak directly. Xiaoma told him everything that had happened, including how he was tricked by Yang Jianan on the rooftop. This Yang Jianan has been very active recently. Wang Chake said after listening, didn't he just make a contribution and get promoted to the deputy team leader of Team B? How dare he treat you like this? Yeah, I'm also very puzzled. However, I heard that he is rushing to take over the position of team leader of Team B. It's understandable that he is arrogant. Pang Fengde frowned and said, Old Wang, I don't want to criticize you, but haven't you always been fighting for the position of team leader of Team B? Are you willing to give it to someone else? Of course I'm not willing, but I heard that Deputy Bureau Chief Xia Zhili will take over Team B after the new year. At that time Team B will be his. That Yang Jianan is his man. Speaking of this, Wang Chake was a little annoyed. He was the veteran deputy team leader of Team B. He thought that this time he would be able to take over the position. However, he didn't expect that someone would come out of nowhere and replace him. We have to think of something. If we can get Yang Jianan down, it will be good for both of us. Pang Fengde said. I heard that his relationship with Hua Wu is also very close recently. Old Pang, do you have a good plan? Wang Chake suddenly became interested. Both of them had benefits, so naturally they wanted to get rid of Yang Jianan. Not yet, but let's discuss it. As long as he makes some unforgivable mistakes, even if Xia Zhili wants to promote him, it will be impossible. Pang Fengde said, we can make a fool of him or ruin his reputation. In this way, even if Xia Zhili supports us, it will be useless. And your idea is right, but how do we do it? Wang Chake nodded. Tomorrow at the sorority, let's see if we can make a fool of him. If he makes a fool of himself at the sorority and embarrass himself in front of all the higher-ups of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, then Xia Zhili will no longer protect him. Pang Fengde said, but I can't think of any way to make a fool of him. I have a good idea, but I need your backer to send a message. Wang Chake thought about it and said. What do you say? Pang Fengde asked quickly. Let's first release the news that Yang Jianan and Song Huawu are in a relationship, and then do this. Wang Chake said, with such a character, even if Xia Zhili supports him, it will be impossible for him to be promoted in the short term. At that time your backer will say a few words. He will be finished? Good idea. Pang Fengde suddenly slapped his thigh happily after listening. Wonderful. Ouch. He was so excited that he forgot that his bones were broken, so he was in so much pain. Tonight's incident didn't attract too much attention. After all, Pang Fengde, the person involved, didn't say anything. What else could others say? However, everyone was concerned about another rumor. That was, the beauty of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, Song Huawu, was in a relationship. The person in love was actually her boss, Yang Jianan, who she didn't like in the past. This news was explosive, but most people were just watching the fun. Anyway, this was just a rumor. Whether it was true or false, the person involved didn't explain. Who knew if it was true or false? The next night, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's sorority officially began. Today the restaurant didn't accept any guests from outside. It had been booked by the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Xiao Qin, Song Huawu and Xia Shibin walked into the restaurant together. They greeted some colleagues they knew. In fact, Xiao Qin didn't know them, but under the hints of Song Huawu and Xia Shibin, Xiao Qin behaved very appropriately and didn't reveal any flaws. Deputy Bureau Chief Xia. When Xiao Qin saw Xia Zhili, he naturally walked over quickly and greeted him. And Jianan, you're here. Very good. I heard that you and Huawu are already together? Not bad, congratulations. I still have something to do here. You guys go and play with those colleagues first. Xia Zhili smiled and said to Xiao Chen and the others. He was very satisfied that Xiao Chen came to greet him. This also made him proud, letting everyone know that Xiao Chen was his man, and that he had just completed a mission. Xiao Chen didn't say much. He agreed and walked to the food buffet with Song Huawu and Xia Shibin. He planned to take some food and find a place to sit down. Anyway, he didn't know most of the people, so he might as well find a corner to take a nap. Song Huawu wasn't the kind of person who liked to show off. She also took a fruit platter and sat in the corner with Xiao Chen and Xia Shibin. Yesterday. I don't know what happened to Pang Fengde. It seems that no one mentioned it? Song Huawu was a little strange. Since they came in, they hadn't heard any discussion about Pang Fengde. This is secondary. I saw a lot of people looking at us strangely. Also, Deputy Bureau Chief Xia said that we are dating. Who spread this news? What does that mean? Xiao Chen's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. Who cares? Everyone knows that we went to Lego Town in Europe to carry out a mission together. Recently we have been together. It's normal for there to be some rumors. Song Huawu didn't take it seriously. I don't even care. Why do you care? Forget it. It's fine. Xiao Qin shook his head. He felt that there must be something wrong with things. It wasn't like this yesterday, but it became like this today. There must be something strange. However, Xiao Qin only thought about it in his heart. He didn't say much to Song Huawu. Maybe he was thinking too much. If he said it, it would only add to Song Huawu's troubles. Chapter 6:15. Let's eat. The food provided here is really good. Xiao Qin looked at the food in front of him and said with appreciation. Song Huawu nodded and said, that's for sure. Everyone is an elite of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. After a busy year, we have to reward everyone at the year-end party. Wasn't there a reward for the 3 armies in the past? Xiao Qin nodded. When he was about to say something, he saw 3 people walking toward him. One of them walked a little awkwardly. His body was a little stiff like a robot. This person was Pang Fengde, who jumped off the building yesterday. Ma Jisheng was beside him. Xiao Qin didn't know the other person. Brother Yang, the other person is called Wang Chake. He is the deputy leader of Team B. You should remember that you have seen him before. Xia Shibing quickly reminded him. And? Xiao Qin nodded. It turns out that he is also in Team B like me, but why is he together with Pang Fengde? These 2 people seem to have a good relationship. Is he here to vent his anger for Pang Fengde? But it shouldn't be. If I'm just an ordinary member of Team B, it's reasonable. But I'm the deputy leader with him, so I'm on the same level. How can I vent my anger? While the 2 of them were talking, the 3 people had already come in front of Xiao Qin. Deputy Leader Yang, I'm afraid you are very disappointed to see me like this, right? Pang Fengde came over and said in a strange tone. He only had a slight bone fracture, and he had applied special medicine, so he was fine now. It was just that his posture was a little weird. Yeah, I'm really disappointed, said Xiao Qin. Then he deliberately paused and continued, you are the leader of the newcomer training group. You actually got injured when you fell. It's really disappointing. If it were me, I would definitely stand up immediately. Aren't you too weak? You. Pang Fengde listened to Xiao Qian's first sentence and was quite happy. He understood that Xiao Qian would be disappointed to see that he didn't die, but he didn't expect Xiao Qian to be disappointed with his weakness. Also, according to our agreement, although you didn't die yesterday, you lost. You have to hide when you see me in the future. Now that I'm here to attend the party, you can get lost. Xiao Qin stretched out his hand and pointed to the door. This. Pang Fengde's expression was stagnant. He was thinking about how to punish Xiao Qin. He actually forgot about yesterday's challenge. He couldn't help but look a little ugly. Fortunately, he was also a quick-witted person. He looked at Ma Jisheng and let him decide. The reason why Ma Jisheng could become his follower was because he had some brains. Deputy Team Leader Yang, what you said is wrong. Yesterday, you helped our team leader Pang extinguish the fire and then blew him down the building. Your battle was then suspended. Everyone is fine, which means that no one lost. Naturally, the agreement is invalid. Ma Jisheng rolled his eyes and said, I'm right, right? I knew you would be shameless. It's fine. I don't care. Xiao Qin shrugged. All right, are you done with your fart? If you are done, get lost. Don't affect my mood to eat. Yang Jianan, don't be too arrogant. At this time, Wang Chake spoke. He looked at Xiao Qian and said, you and I are both deputy team leaders of Team B of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and I'm a veteran deputy team leader. You should be more humble in front of me. Really? I'm so arrogant. What can you do about it? Xiao Qin raised his eyebrows indifferently and said, I'm aiming for Team B's team leader. Don't worry. With your attitude, I'll be the first to hang you up. You. Wang Chake didn't expect Xiao Qin to be so arrogant. He even dared to say such words unscrupulously. What you? Didn't you see that little Meng used to be in Team C? He offended me. I'll let him do some strenuous and unrewarding tasks. How about it? Look at him. Xiao Qin laughed and said loudly. At this time, a young man happened to pass by. It was little Meng. When he heard Xiao Qian's words, he immediately clenched his fists. He was furious. He had heard the recent rumors. Yang Jianan had been promoted to the deputy team leader of Team B, and the leader of Team C had been decided internally to be Song Huawu. As for whether he could continue as the deputy team leader, it was already a problem. When he messed up the task, he came back to reflect on it. Until now, he had not completed any tasks. Now that he heard Xiao Qian's words, he knew that he had no hope. He could not help but feel disheartened. Of course, part of it was because Yang Jianan was targeting him. However, Little Meng also knew that he did not live up to expectations. Otherwise, why would Yang Jianan complete the same task while he failed? He was still incompetent, so he could not blame others for messing with him. Let's wait and see. Wang Chake's face turned green. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. However, thinking that Xiao Chen would be finished soon, he suppressed his anger and did not explode. Pang Fengde was also unbearably angry. He turned around and left with Wang Chake with the help of Ma Jisheng. You see, I told you not to come and humiliate yourself, but you insisted on coming. Wang Chake was a little depressed. Let's just implement the plan. You had to show him that you were fine, but in the end you got mocked, didn't you? Old Wang, I didn't expect this to happen either. Pang Fengde was also extremely depressed. Damn, who knew that this kid was so sharp-tongued? But he won't be jumping around for long. That's true. Two team leaders, calm down. There will be a good show soon. Ma Jisheng chuckled. And little Ma, have you arranged everything? Pang Fengde asked. Don't worry, it's all arranged. Ma Jisheng nodded. The three of them were not in a hurry. They found another corner and sat down. From here they could see the entire situation on Xiao Chen's side. The fraternity party began very quickly. The higher-ups of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau gave speeches one by one, affirming and encouraging everyone's work over the past year. They also commended the various departments and those who had achieved good results. When Xia Jisheng spoke, he emphasized on praising Xiao Chen. However, what surprised Xiao Chen was that the director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau did not appear. When the other deputy director Song spoke, Song Huawu's expression was obviously a little excited. Xiao Chen could roughly infer that this deputy director Song should be the person who adopted Song Huawu. This deputy director Song's ranking was even higher than Xia Jisheng's because the higher the ranking, the later they would appear to speak. Deputy Director Song was in charge of all the training work of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, but he also emphasized on praising Pang Fengde. This also confirmed that he was undoubtedly Pang Fengde's backer. After these higher-ups spoke one by one, it was free time for the fraternity party. These higher-ups separated and went around the venue to greet their subordinates. The atmosphere was lively. However, at this moment, a woman in a dress rushed into the hall of the fraternity party. Under everyone's shocked gazes, she rushed towards Xiao Chen's table with large strides. To be honest, Xiao Chen was also extremely stunned. What was this person trying to do? When the woman ran over, she pointed at Xiao Chen and shouted, Yang Jianan, you're really good. You don't want me anymore, do you? I'm already pregnant with your child. We agreed to get married next year, but you actually want to marry your colleague in order to curry favor with the rich and powerful, right? I heard that your colleague has a powerful background? Who are you? Xiao Chen frowned, but he didn't look at the woman. Instead, he shifted his gaze to Pang Fengde. However, the three of them looked like they were watching a show. They couldn't see any problems. Yang Jianan, you actually don't recognize me? The woman was furious. She pointed at Song Huawu with a trembling finger and said, This is that vixen, right? Let me tell you, I'm Yang Jianan's girlfriend and I'm already pregnant. Stop fantasizing. At this time, most of the people in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had the mentality of watching a good show. However, Deputy Director Song's face was a little dark. He walked over quickly and shouted at Xiao Chen, Yang Jianan, what the hell is going on? Everyone knew that Song Huawu was raised by him, so Deputy Director Song took good care of her. However, only a few people like Yang Jianan knew about this unknown relationship. Seeing that Deputy Director Song was standing up for him, Xiao Chen was basically certain that today's matter was caused by Pang Fengde and the others. However, Xiao Chen wasn't nervous. He looked at the woman and said unhurriedly, I said, do you know me? Wow, Yang Jianan, we have been together for 3 years. I can recognize your face even if it turns into ashes. The woman yelled. Hee hee. Xiao Chen laughed. The people next to him didn't know what was going on, but some people felt that something was wrong. They heard Xiao Chen continue to say, my face? I don't think I used it for long, right? As far as I know, I only changed my face a few months ago. At that time, it was only reported to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. In other words, only the people inside the Supernatural Investigation Bureau knew that my face was Yang Jianan's. How did you know? 3 years? I used this face 3 years ago? Everyone listened to Xiao Chen's words and suddenly began to discuss. Deputy Director Song, who was on the side, seemed to feel that something was wrong. However, he didn't think much of Yang Jianan. He was optimistic about Pang Fengde and hoped that Song Huawu and Pang Fengde would be together. Therefore, he deliberately pretended not to hear it and didn't speak. You came to me a few days ago. Why don't I know you? The woman's reaction was fast and she explained it at once. Don't be picky with me. When I'm anxious, I slip up and you treat it as a loophole. You have been like this for the past few months. Chapter 6:16. When the woman spoke, everyone believed it. After all, it was normal for a person to say something wrong in a moment of desperation. They couldn't say that this woman was a fake, so everyone continued to watch the show. Pang Fengde nodded to Ma Jisheng in appreciation and said, Xiao Ma, this woman you found is not bad. She's really smart. Ah, that's right. This is a professional model I found. She usually takes on some advertisements and supporting roles in movies. How can she not be professional? Ma Jisheng laughed. And let's continue watching. Wang Chake was very interested. Alright, stop acting. Xiao Qin saw the woman pestering endlessly, and he was too lazy to reason with her. He directly reprimanded, If you continue to pester endlessly, do you believe that I will kill you on the spot? As he spoke, Xiao Qin was about to take something from his waist. Xiao Qin's reaction made everyone suddenly stunned. What does this mean? Does he want to silence me? He actually dared to use a gun in this kind of occasion? Isn't he going to be punished? It was just that at this moment the woman seemed to be frightened. She suddenly turned around and ran, but the direction she ran in was Xia Zhili, who was walking over here. When Xia Zhili saw that Xiao Qin was about to take out a gun, he was also shocked. Don't be impulsive. At most, this scandal would make him unable to be the leader of Team B, but there was still the position of deputy leader. If he took out a gun, then the position of deputy leader of Team B would also be ruined. This was not what he wanted to see. However, what Xia Zhili didn't expect was that the woman hugged Xia Zhili and shouted, Dear, I don't want to do it. You asked me to frame Yang Jianan, but he wants to kill me. If this hits my stomach, what about our child? However, what Xia Zhili didn't expect was that the woman hugged him and shouted, Dear, I don't want to do it. You asked me to frame Yang Jianan, but he wants to kill me. If this hits my stomach, what about our child? Xia Zhili was stunned and so were the others. What was going on? Why did this woman say that the child was Xiao Chen's just a moment ago, and now it was Xia Zhili's? What's wrong with this woman? Pang Fengde frowned and looked at Ma Jisheng. However, Ma Jisheng didn't know that and thought that he had done something very praiseworthy. He said proudly, maybe he saw that Xiao Chen wasn't easy to frame so he changed his mind and framed Xia Zhili? But it's all the same, these two are our targets. Bullsh *T. Pang Fengde was furious when he heard Ma Jisheng's words. He roared, Hurry up and contact that woman. Tell her not to talk nonsense. What? Ma Jisheng was a little dazed. Wasn't the effect the same as messing with Xia Zhili? At that time, Xia Zhili's reputation would be ruined, and it wouldn't be good to suggest him to take over the position of Xiao Chen. Just as Pang Fengde was about to explain, it was already too late. He saw Xia Li swing his palm and slap the woman's face, sending her flying. Xia Zhili's rage didn't arouse the disgust of the people present. Instead, everyone didn't speak and remained silent, letting Xia Zhili rage. Even the other deputy directors pretended not to see it at this time. Ma Jisheng was a little puzzled. What does this mean? Why is Xia Zhili hitting a woman crazily and no one cares? He stood up subconsciously and said righteously, Deputy Director Xia, isn't it wrong for you to do this? No matter what, you can't hit a woman, right? Pang Fengde was shocked. He wanted to pull Ma Jisheng back. At this time, no one stood up. Naturally, there was a reason not to stand up. Aren't you going to be hated by others if you stand up and pretend to be righteous? Sure enough, Pang Fengde's reaction was a step too slow. Xia Zhili rushed over in a frenzy and gave Ma Zhili a flying kick, sending him flying into the air and crashing into the wall with a quang dang before falling to the ground and lying on the ground. Obviously, he was already injured as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. This horrifying scene made Xiao Chen a little dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going on. He just controlled the woman's thoughts for a while. He just wanted to make a joke. He didn't expect there to be so many chain reactions. However, why was Xia Zhili so angry that he continuously hurt people? But why didn't anyone stop him? What's going on? Xiao Qin turned his head and looked at Song Huawu. This. Song Huawu found it a little difficult to say it out loud. However, when she thought that she was talking to Xiao Chen, she did not mind it. She leaned close to Xiao Chen's ear and whispered, When Deputy Bureau Chief Xia was young, he was severely injured in the lower part of his body during a mission. He was incapacitated, so everyone avoided this matter. No one dared to mention it in front of him. When Xiao Chen heard it, he immediately understood. No wonder. This woman said that she was Xia Zhili's lover and she was pregnant. Wasn't this poking at Xia Zhili's sore spot? Who among the higher-ups present didn't know about this? Probably only ordinary staff like Ma Jisheng didn't know, right? Therefore when Xia Zhili exploded, no one dared to stop him. After all, he was injured during a mission when he was young. Even if they were enemies, they wouldn't use this as an excuse. However, Xiao Chen now understood why Xia Zhili was so passionate about power. It turned out that he had a physical defect. Weren't those eunuchs in ancient times also strangely passionate about power? Xiao Chen thought about it and once again controlled the mind of the woman on the ground who was at a loss. He made her run in the direction of Pang Fengde and yelled as she ran, "I quit. Give me the money. I don't want to act anymore. How can I beat people up? You didn't say anything in advance. No, I have to pay more. Don't slander me." Pang Fengde's face turned green at this moment. Is this woman crazy? How can she tell the truth here? That little Ma you ordered, he was the one who contacted me. I recorded it all. The woman continued to shout. Take her out. Take this crazy woman out. Pang Fengde was mad and yelled. Although Deputy Director Song was very disappointed with Pang Fengde, he couldn't ignore him. If he let Pang Fengde make a fool of himself, he would lose his face. Therefore he could only give a hint to the two men next to him. The two men quickly carried the woman and left the restaurant. On the other hand, Xia Zhili was still in a frenzy. After kicking Ma Jisheng, when he heard that the mastermind was Pang Fengde, he immediately regained his senses and gave Pang Fengde a roundhouse kick. At that moment, his strength as a level 10 martial master was fully displayed. Level 10 martial master? Xiao Chen was a little shocked. He originally thought that Xia Zhili was at most a level 3 or 4 martial master. However, after seeing Pang Fengde's strength, he was a little shaken. Today, he realized that he had always underestimated Xia Zhili. This guy actually had such a high level of strength. Xiao Chen's previous idea was too simple. Killing Xia Zhili was basically impossible now, at least not in the short term. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be a match for Xia Zhili. Pang Fengde had been injured because of a bone fracture yesterday. After being kicked like this, he would probably be lying in the hospital. Deputy Director Song took a deep breath, but he didn't step forward to stop them. Moreover, Xia Zhili had become a eunuch because of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's mission. It was fine to fight openly and covertly, but it was too despicable to make an issue out of this. No matter what, everyone was working for the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. If you used this to make an issue out of it, they would already be very lenient if they didn't beat you to death. Even if the director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau knew about this, he probably wouldn't say much. Xia Zhili had worked hard to complete the mission and became a eunuch. How dare you use this to mock him? After the woman was carried out, Deputy Director Song waved his hand. Two more men came and carried Pang Fengde and Ma Zhili out. However, he couldn't say a word for them. However, in his heart he already hated Xia Zhili and Yang Jianan. Looking at Song Huawu and Yang Jianan sitting together, Deputy Director Song was very angry, but he forgot that today's incident was Pang Fengde's own fault. The farce was over, and Xia Zhili's emotions also calmed down. He cupped his hands and said to everyone, I'm sorry. I lost control of my emotions. I will go back to rest first. Everyone continue. However, after such a mess, who was in the mood to stay here? A good fellowship party was ruined. Xiao Qin and Song Huawu naturally didn't have the mood to stay any longer. They went upstairs early. Huawu, you stay. Deputy Director Song stopped Song Huawu, who was about to leave. Ah, Instructor Song, you were looking for me? Song Huawu quickly stopped. She was a little guilty. She knew that Instructor Song's heart was actually biased towards Pang Fengde, but she was with Xiao Chen. She couldn't say that the current Yang Jianan wasn't the previous Yang Jianan. And come here. I want to talk to you about something. After Deputy Director Song finished speaking, he turned and walked to an empty seat not far away. Then I will go up first. Xiao Chen didn't want to put Song Huawu in a difficult position, so he said to her. And? Song Huawu nodded and then quickly followed Instructor Song. Sitting in front of a dining table, Deputy Director Song said, Huawu, between you and Yang Jianan? Although he didn't finish his words, he believed that Song Huawu could understand. Sure enough, Song Huawu's face turned red and she was a little nervous. He and I are developing. Huawu, Yang Jianan's character isn't good. Instructor Song said with a serious face. I know that you didn't like him before, so I didn't care about you being in the same group as him, but I didn't expect you to really agree to him. What? You know, I have always been optimistic about Pang Fengda. I want to train him to be my successor. Chapter 6:17. Instructor, I know, but Yang Jianan is really different from before. He has matured now and can focus on doing things. Didn't this mission explain everything? Song Huawu could only explain it this way. One success is nothing. The main thing is that his character is not good. I have long heard about him and Xia Zhili stuffing their own pockets. This person's heart is not righteous. If you follow him, you will suffer in the future. Instructor Song said. But isn't Pang Fengda's character the same? What did he do today? He found a woman to falsely accuse Yang Jianan. Does that mean he is righteous? Song Huawu retorted with some dissatisfaction. If he does this, he will ruin the entire sorority. What should we do? You dare to talk back to me? Instructor Song was a little annoyed. Wasn't he forced? If you weren't close to Yang Jianan, would he have made such a stupid move? Have you ever seen him like this before? Song Huawu lowered her head, feeling wronged. If you recognize me as your instructor, go and make it clear to Yang Jianan. Don't be with him. Instructor Song said, of course, if you don't respect me as your instructor, you can go and join Xia Zhili. Song Huawu was in a dilemma. Alright, think about it yourself. I'll leave first. Instructor Song stood up and strode away. Song Huawu looked at his back and sighed. On the one hand, she didn't want to be separated from Xiao Chen. On the other hand, she didn't want to go against Instructor Song's wishes. What should she do? One was the benefactor who had raised her, and the other was the person who had saved her life. She was grateful and had a good impression of him. How should she choose? How should she choose? Since Instructor Song had already said this, Song Huawu knew that her ambiguous attitude wouldn't work. However, she couldn't leave Xiao Chen. Not to mention anything else, her leg belonged to Xiao Chen. Moreover, for her, Xiao Chen had raised the Claryman family to the ground. Song Huawu didn't say this, but she remembered it in her heart. Song Huawu sighed and left the dining room in a daze. She returned to her room. Xiao Chen was also a little surprised that Song Huawu didn't contact him when she came back. However, he thought that Deputy Bureau Chief Song must have said something to her. Xiao Chen didn't want Song Huawu to be in a difficult position, so he didn't take the initiative to look for her. Therefore, Xiao Chen cultivated in his room. It was just a pity that he hadn't eaten his fill tonight, and it was ruined by an unexpected incident. At about 12 o'clock in the evening, Song Huawu called. Huawu. Xiao Chen answered the call. Xiao Chen. I'm in a bad mood. Do you want to go out for a drink or two with me? Song Huawu's voice was a little gloomy. Sure. Xiao Chen just wanted to go out to eat something, so he readily agreed. He also wanted to ask what happened to Song Huawu. See you at the elevator. After Song Huawu finished speaking, she hung up the phone. Xiao Chen simply cleaned up and went out of the room. He went to the elevator and waited for Song Huawu. However, Song Huawu was a girl after all. Xiao Chen waited for more than 10 minutes before she came over. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. Song Huawu rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen and said, I'm sorry. I took a cold shower. A cold shower on a cold day? Xiao Chen was stunned. It's nothing. Song Huawu obviously didn't want to say much. The elevator came and the two of them walked in silently. Xiao Chen also found that Song Huawu's mood wasn't right. If it was a normal day, she would definitely be chattering with him. But today she was very quiet. It was obviously because of Deputy Bureau Chief Song's matter. When the elevator reached the first floor, the two of them tacitly walked out of the hotel. They didn't choose the restaurant in the hotel. After all, there were people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau nearby. It wasn't good to let them see them. It wasn't that they were afraid to tell Deputy Bureau Chief Song. They obviously couldn't hide from Deputy Bureau Chief Song's eyes and ears when they came out, but Song Huawu didn't want others to see her emotions at the moment. The two of them didn't go far. There was a street near the hotel that was full of food stalls. The two of them found one, sat down, and ordered some lamb skewers and beer. When the beer was served, the lamb skewers weren't roasted yet. Song Huawu picked up the beer and gulped down a bottle. Xiao Chen was really shocked. Huawu, what are you doing? Song Huawu didn't care about Xiao Chen. After one bottle, she picked up another bottle. Xiao Chen had never seen Song Huawu drink before, but he didn't expect her to have such a high alcohol tolerance. Song Huawu's expression didn't change even after 2 bottles. In fact, What Xiaoqun didn't know was that drinking was also a skill of special agents. Some special missions needed to deal with people from all walks of life. At the drinking table, many things could be completed without batting an eyelid. Song Huawu was usually just unwilling to drink. At this time, the lamb skewers were served. It scared the waiter who was serving them. What kind of volume is this? Huawu, if you have something to say, just say it. You don't have to drink like this, right? Xiaoqun saw that Song Huawu was about to pick up the third bottle and quickly stopped her. Don't worry about me. Song Huawu suddenly rolled her eyes and said, Who do you think you are? You're not anyone to me. Why do you care so much? Go eat your skewers. Xiaoqun looked at Song Huawu's emotional words and was a little puzzled. What did Deputy Bureau Chief Song say to you? Nothing, Xiaoqun. Today let's treat it as our farewell meal. Song Huawu had already made a decision. In any case, she couldn't disobey the words of Instructor Song, who had raised her. From tomorrow onwards, we won't do missions together anymore, and we won't live together anymore. You can live by yourself in the house in Songning City. When Xiaoqun heard Song Huawu's words, he suddenly felt a little disappointed. He didn't know why. Perhaps it was because he was used to Song Huawu being by his side. When she suddenly wanted to separate from him, Xiaoqun couldn't accept it. However, Xiaoqun also understood. He even guessed the situation. Deputy Bureau Chief Song had a problem with him, and he was the one who raised Song Huawu. It would be strange if Deputy Bureau Chief Song would let Song Huawu interact with him. However, in order to comfort Song Huawu, Xiaoqun smiled and said, If there's wine today, let's get drunk. If there's trouble tomorrow, let's worry about it tomorrow. Don't worry so much. Let's eat first. As he spoke, Xiaoqun grabbed a handful of lamb skewers and stuffed them directly into his mouth. Then he opened a bottle of beer and accompanied Song Huawu to drink. Now he also understood Song Huawu's feelings. Song Huawu must have been in a difficult situation. He didn't know how much determination she had to make this choice. It could be seen from her red and swollen eyes. She wasn't an ungrateful person, but sometimes she couldn't help it. Not far away, there was another table of guests eating. There was a person with a bandage on his head, a person with a cane, and the last one was fine. However, the three of them eating in such a condition was indescribably strange. They were Pang Fengde, Ma Jisheng, and Wang Chake, who had just returned from the hospital. Isn't that Yang Jianan and Song Huawu? Ma Jisheng's eyes were sharp. He saw Xiaoqun and Song Huawu not far away at a glance. It really is them. Why did they come here to eat at the food stall? They seem to be having a good time. Wang Chake was a little puzzled. He didn't know that Deputy Bureau Chief Song went to look for Song Huawu, so he thought they were drinking to celebrate. Damn, I'm so angry. I get angry when I see this kid. Pang Fengde was so angry that he was trembling. Ma Jisheng, where did you find such an ignorant woman? Professional acting? I'm dead. Don't mention it, brother Da. Look at me, I'm also covered in bandages. Ma Jisheng was also a little helpless. Who wants this to happen? Pang Fengde nodded. Ma Jisheng's appearance also made him feel better. Ma Jisheng was right. Who didn't want to do this well? Ma Jisheng was also unlucky, but it wasn't intentional. Seeing that Yang Jianan, that kid is so cool, I really don't want to give up. Can I mess with him a little? Pang Fengde's evil intentions began to come out again. Let me think. Wang Chake narrowed his eyes and began to think of some dirty tricks. His hatred for Xiaoqun was no less than Pang Fengde and Ma Jisheng. This guy was obviously here to take over the position of Team B's team leader. Didn't he endure for so many years for the position of team leader? Now that he was suddenly contradicted by Xiaoqun, it would be strange if he could be happy. So, if there was a chance to mess with Xiaoqun, he would never be lenient. The trick just now failed, but the relationship between this Yang Jianan and Song Huawu doesn't seem to be affected at all. The one just now was too fake. Pang Fengde waved his hand. It would be strange if Song Huawu believed it. Fake. And I have a trick. Wang Chake's eyes turned and he thought of another idea. What trick? Pang Fengde suddenly became interested. This time we have to do it ruthlessly so that Yang Jianan can't make a comeback. The mistress and the like can only be suppressed temporarily, but if he breaks the law and commits a crime, he will never be able to make a comeback. He might even be kicked out of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Wang Chake smiled and a trace of coldness flashed across his mouth. He was a person who liked to play dirty. He didn't kill Xiaoqun previously because he had overestimated the young model's acting skills. However, this time he failed to teach Xiaoqun a lesson, and it also aroused the ruthlessness and dissatisfaction in his heart. He didn't want to use these little tricks anymore. He was ready to give Xiaochen a fatal blow and permanently get rid of this future trouble. In for a penny, in for a pound. Breaking the law and committing a crime? What do you mean? How can we let him commit a crime? Pang Fengde didn't understand and looked at Wang Chake inexplicably. He is originally from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, a law enforcement officer. It's difficult for you to let him commit a crime. That's true. Wang Chake smiled. He had already found a way to ruin Xiaochen's reputation. Mistress and mistress are all voluntary. It's boring. What do you think the result will be if Yang Jianan raped a civilian girl? Chapter 618. Oh. Pang Fengde, who was on the side, was not a fool. He understood it immediately and smiled. This is a good idea. You mean to let him be drunk, right? Yes, look at him drinking so much now. He will definitely be drunk in a while. Let's catch a woman first, knock her out and put her in his room. Then, when he goes back drunk and finds a woman on the bed, he might think that it is Song Huawu and then, hee. Wang Chake sneered. What do you think will happen? If it were me, I would be involuntarily. We are all men. We understand. Pang Fengde also laughed. Ma Jisheng also slapped his thigh. In order to prevent Yang Jianan from settling this privately, let's blow this matter up tomorrow morning. We will bring the people of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to arrest him directly. Right, isn't the deputy team leader of the monitoring group trained by team leader Wang? Let's look for him. Team leader Lu is a bit upright. I'm afraid it's not good to let him participate. Wang Chake shook his head. We don't need to let him participate at all. We will just tell the truth. When the time comes, the facts will be in front of us. Yang Jianan will not be allowed to quibble. At that time, Team Leader Lu only needs to deal with it impartially. Ma Jisheng said. This is not a problem. Wang Chake nodded after listening and said, if that's the case, let's go and arrest them now. Otherwise, when Yang Jianan and Song Huawu finish drinking and go back, it won't be easy for us to make a move. Let's go. The three of them stopped eating and immediately found the boss to pay the bill. Then they got into a business car and sped away. Song Huawu drank one glass after another. Xiaochen looked at her situation and felt that it was a bit creepy, but he still accompanied her to the end. After all, Song Huawu was upset, and Xiaochen was also a little upset. But no matter what decision Song Huawu made, Xiaochen supported her. If it was Xiaochen, if the elder heaven ancestor who had helped him a lot, asked him to do something, he probably would not refuse. This was the same logic. Therefore Xiaochen did not ask why, nor did he deliberately ask her to stay. He raised the bottle and said straightforwardly, Huawu, we will still be good friends in the future. If there is anything, you can find me. Come, let me toast first. Yes, but I can't keep in touch with you anymore. Song Huawu was also a little tipsy. She also picked up a bottle of beer and downed it. Cheers. Xiaochen's alcohol tolerance wasn't as good as Song Huawu's. Although he was a cultivator, he was still a little drunk. Seeing that Song Huawu's vision was a little blurry, he couldn't help but say, it's nothing. Sometimes, friends don't need to be together all the time. You're right. Come on, let's drink another bottle. Song Huawu raised another bottle of beer. The two of them went back and forth like this. God knows how many bottles they drank and how many mutton skewers they ate. Anyway, when it came time to settle the bill, it was the boss who said how much it was. Xiaochen didn't care. He just casually threw 1,000 yuan on the table. It was enough. The two of them supported each other and walked back in a daze. Song Huawu said as she walked, Xiaochen, although we can't play together anymore, my life is yours. You can play secretly too. Xiaochen said in a daze. The waiter looked at the two of them inexplicably. What is the relationship between this man and woman? They can actually drink so much? However, this had nothing to do with him. He happily grabbed the 1,000 yuan on the table and gave it to the boss. Boss, they gave 1,000 yuan. F***CK beer is 10 yuan a bottle and they drank 50 bottles. Mutton skewers are 3 yuan a skewer, and they ate 200 skewers. They still lost 100 yuan. The boss couldn't help but scold, are you stupid? The waiter was stunned. He didn't calculate it. At this moment he calculated it carefully. They did lose 100 yuan, at the entrance of the hotel in a business car. Little Ma, how's it going? Is there any problem? Pang Fengde touched his broken right leg and his eyes flashed fiercely. Don't worry, brother Da. I have already asked someone to do it. The person has been caught, drugged, and placed on the bed in Yang Jianan's room. Ma Jisheng said with a smile. And is it done by one of our own people? Pang Fengde was a little worried. Don't worry. It's our newcomer training group. They're all my people. Wang Chake said on the side, but little Ma, you are the one who caught the person. Did you see it clearly? Don't let the woman come back and treat it as a one-night stand. If so, we can't frame Yang Jianan at all. What kind of person am I, Ma Jisheng? I have fiery eyes. Whether that chick is an innocent little virgin, I can see it at a glance. Ma Jisheng patted his chest and promised, there will be no problem this time. It's definitely a girl from a decent family. That's good. Wang Chake nodded and said, but have you figured out her identity? Her family conditions aren't bad. She should be a rich lady. Her car is an Audi TT. Ma Jisheng said, although it's not a top sports car, her family is definitely not short of money. If Yang Jianan wants to settle it privately, it's impossible. That's good. As long as this girl's family doesn't let Yang Jianan go, Yang Jianan is finished. Being expelled from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau is a light punishment. Maybe he will be sent directly to prison. After Pang Fengde listened, he smiled with satisfaction. That's right. I messed it up before. This time I must be careful. As Ma Jisheng said this, he took out his mobile phone, opened the photo album and handed it to Pang Fengde. Look, it's this girl. This is her car. Oh? Let me see. Is it her? Pang Fengde took the phone and pointed to the photo on the phone. TSK, she looks quite beautiful. Yang Jianan got lucky. Wang Chake also nodded. It's really the best. It's a pity. Why don't we find a place to enjoy ourselves? Ma Jisheng saw that both of them were interested, so he said quickly, enjoy my ass. Let's get down to business. Pang Fengde returned the phone to Ma Jisheng and said, let's go. Xiao Qin and Song Huawu got into the elevator in a daze and then returned to his room. He only felt dizzy. He drank too much alcohol today. Opening the door, Xiao Qin didn't even turn on the light. He took off his clothes, went to bed in a daze and fell asleep. He really didn't have the extra strength to do anything else. In a vague trance, Xiao Qin seemed to feel that something was wrong. There seemed to be another person beside him. However, Xiao Qin drank too much and his mind wasn't very clear. In a daze, he subconsciously thought that he was still in Song Huawu's room in Songning City, and the person beside him was Song Huawu. Therefore he didn't think much and fell asleep. Dong dong dong. Xiao Qin was awakened by a violent knocking on the door. His head was still a little painful. He drank too much yesterday and he hadn't sobered up yet. Who is this? Knocking on the door so early in the morning. Is there a problem? Xiao Qin cursed in his heart and opened his eyes with some difficulty. However, the first thing that came into view was the face of a sleeping woman. Who is this? Xiao Qin was suddenly stunned. Why is there another person in my room? Did I drink too much last night and go to the wrong room? However, if I went to the wrong room, how did the room card open the door? Yes, he remembered that there seemed to be a person who fell asleep next to him last night. He thought it was Song Huawu, but he didn't expect it to be otherwise. However, just as Xiao Qin was wondering, the knocking on the door became more violent, as if someone wanted to break in. Is there a problem? Are you sure no one came out last night? Not far away, the door of a room was ajar. 3 men were looking at the situation from a distance through the crack of the door. The man who asked was Pang Fengde. Don't worry. No one came out. Ma Jisheng yawned. Last night, he was the one who guarded here all night to see if anyone came out of Xiao Chen's room. And that's good. Let's see how Yang Jianan dies this time. Pang Fengde smiled. Wang Chake, who was at the side, also looked like he was watching a good show. The people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had already arrived, and the one leading them was Leader Lu. Leader Lu abhorred evil and would definitely not tolerate Xiao Chen's tyrannical behavior. The person inside opened the door. If you don't open the door, we will force our way in. Team Leader Lu knocked for a long time, but no one opened the door. He was a little annoyed. Knock your mom. Your mom is dead. Are you ringing the funeral bell? Xiao Chen opened the door. There was a do not disturb sign on the door of his room. Who was so blind as to knock on the door crazily? Team Leader Lu snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he got a few people behind him to restrain Xiao Chen. Then, he strode into the room and saw the woman sleeping soundly on the bed. He frowned and said to a female subordinate, "Go and examine her." Yes. The female subordinate rushed in quickly and did a simple check on the girl on the bed. Then she said, reporting to Team Leader Lu, she was indeed drugged. She is still unconscious. Hearing the female underling's report, Team Leader Lu snorted coldly. He waved his hand and said, "Take Yang Jianan away from me. Little Wu, wait for the victim to wake up and take her to make a statement." "Yes." Little Wu and the men who were holding Xiaoqin responded at the same time. "Who are you? What do you mean?" Xiaoqin was still a little confused. He had not woken up from this series of shocks. "I was sleeping well and team leader Lu rushed in to take me away. Is there something wrong with him?" "Be honest." "I am Lu Zhanlong, the deputy team leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's monitoring team. You are suspected of being drugged. Now go back with me for investigation." Team leader Lu said resolutely. "What? Drugged? Who am I drugged?" Xiaoqin was a little stunned. Chapter 619. "Oh, isn't the thing on your bed the evidence?" Team leader Lu shouted. "You still dare to deny it? What nonsense are you talking about?" Xiaoqin was a little annoyed. "Get lost. How would I know when she came? Are you crazy? Can you use your brain when doing things? Am I crazy? Can I do this kind of thing in the fellowship party?" Although Xiaoqin was annoyed, he also felt that something was wrong. He went back to his room in a daze yesterday and fell asleep. When did this woman come? Coincidentally, she came. The next morning, this team leader Lu came to arrest him. Who told him this? Who tipped him off? However, yesterday he went to drink with Song Huawu. It was an impromptu decision. Xiaoqin didn't believe that Song Huawu framed him. In his opinion, only Pang Fengde, Ma Jisheng, and Wang Chake could do this kind of thing. "Did Pang Fengde ask you to come?" Xiaoqin asked after he figured it out. "Be honest. Don't talk nonsense." Team leader Lu simply ignored Xiaoqin. He waved his hand and said to his men, "Take him away. If he dares to resist, kill him directly." "Yes." The few men responded, then they pushed Xiaoqin and said, "Hurry up and go. Don't look." Xiaoqin frowned. With the strength of these people in front of him, it was easy to kill them. But if he really killed them, then he couldn't stay in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau anymore. He had to run away again and his identity as Yang Jianan would be abolished. Therefore Xiaoqin had no choice but to go with them first and figure out what was going on. Xiaoqin was taken to a dark basement of the hotel. This room had no windows. It was originally built as a storage place for the hotel's computer room, transformer room and other facilities, but it was not used at the moment. It was empty, and Lu Zhanlong used it as a temporary interrogation room. After entering the basement, Xiaoqin was arranged to sit on a broken wooden chair, while the other people who escorted him blocked the door like tigers watching their prey. They were afraid that Xiaoqin would run away and some of them even took out their guns. After a while Lu Zhanlong came. Behind him stood a stunned girl with disheveled hair and the female subordinate. These people passed by the door of the basement room, but they didn't come in. Instead they went to another basement. At the moment when the girl passed by Xiaoqin's room, Xiaoqin only felt that the girl looked familiar, but he forgot where he had seen her. He didn't have such a feeling before, but now he couldn't see clearly because of her hair. But after passing by, Xiaoqin suddenly remembered something, but because he had just woken up, he couldn't remember anything. Obviously, Lu Zhanlong didn't only want to interrogate Xiaoqin first, but he wanted to ask the girl first. He wanted to find a breakthrough from the girl. The girl rubbed her head in a daze and was helped to a dark basement. She suddenly woke up and shouted, "Help! There are bad guys. Help me." Lu Zhanlong was a little speechless. Why was he regarded as a bad guy? The female subordinate next to him quickly pulled the girl and said, "Don't shout. We are not bad guys. We are the good guys who saved you. This is my ID. You can take a look." The girl was stunned. She looked at the ID handed over by the female subordinate, but she was a little puzzled. She said, "What ID is this? Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Is this a civilian exploration organization?" "Of course not. We are a relatively mysterious department. You can think of it as a special agent. In addition, I also have a military identity. This is my other ID." The female subordinate gave her other ID to the girl. The girl took a look and was a little surprised. "Are you making fake ID? Why are there two IDs? What else do you have?" The female subordinate suddenly had black lines on her head. She said, "You were kidnapped and then you were drugged. Don't you know? Why are you still asking this and that? We just rescued you." Yes, I just parked the car yesterday and got off. I saw someone coming from behind me in the rearview mirror and covered my mouth with something. I don't know anything. Then I found myself lying in bed this morning and was woken up by you," the girl recalled. So, I seem to have been kidnapped? Lu Zhanlong nodded and then said to the female subordinate, "Okay, write it down. But I don't seem to have any injuries on my body. I didn't get drugged. My lower body doesn't hurt at all?" The girl was a little puzzled. "Are you mistaken? N?" Lu Zhanlong was stunned by the girl's tough words. He suddenly had black lines on his head. "If it wasn't your first time, of course it wouldn't hurt." "Nonsense, I didn't before." The girl said angrily, "You must be the liars. Let me go. What I said just now was a lie. Goodbye." As she spoke, the girl was about to get up and rush out. She was quickly pulled back by the female subordinate. "Miss, calm down. Are you drugged? You can go to the hospital for a checkup later. You are a miss. Your whole family is a miss. I won't go for a checkup." The girl was even more furious. "Let me go. I'm from the Wang family. If you catch me, my father won't let you go." Wang family? Lu Zhanlong's face suddenly changed. Could this person be the young miss of the Wang family? This time Yang Jianan was in big trouble. Even the Supernatural Investigation Bureau would be implicated. "We'll take you to identify someone. See if he kidnapped you yesterday and then hurry up." The girl saw that she couldn't leave, so she could only nod helplessly. However, her mouth was indeed pouting in anger. At this time there was a noise outside. Then, it was the sound of two people arguing. Listening carefully, it was actually Xia Zhili and Deputy Bureau Chief Song. Both of them were Deputy Bureau Chiefs, but they were arguing here. "Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, why do you think that Yang Jianan was framed? You came here to command the release of people. This is overstepping your authority. You are not in charge of the supervisory group." Deputy Bureau Chief Song said angrily. He also received the news that Yang Jianan's drugged girl was arrested early in the morning. He was immediately very happy. In this way he didn't need to say anything to Song Huawu. It was impossible for Song Huawu to be with Yang Jianan. He immediately thought that Xia Zhili might obstruct the investigation, so he rushed over immediately. As expected, he saw that Xia Zhili was also there. In the interrogation room, he sternly ordered the supervisory group's subordinates to let go. "Song Billion, that has nothing to do with you. You are in charge of the newcomer training group." Xia Zhili said, "Yang Jianan is my subordinate. How can I not care? I believe him, and I also have reason to suspect that someone is framing him. Yesterday Yang Jianan was just framed, and a similar thing happened at night. I suspect that this was done by Pang Fengde. I also request that Pang Fengde be taken away for investigation. This is his revenge." "You." Song Billion was furious and glared at Xia Zhili. Xia Zhili had to protect Yang Jianan. In the past, Yang Jianan only had some relationship with him, so he didn't pay much attention to him. After all, it would be the same no matter who it was. However, it was different now. Yang Jianan was very capable. He heard that he single-handedly destroyed the Claryman family in Lego Town. How glorious was that? It really promoted the power of the great Xia agents in front of outsiders. Xia Zhili also took advantage of that and was promoted step by step. Because he had become a eunuch, he didn't have any other pursuits. He desperately plundered for the sake of cultivation or for the sake of promotion. He really wasn't interested in anything else. Now that Yang Jianan was so powerful, if he made some more contributions, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight for the position of Deputy Bureau Chief. Therefore he had to desperately protect Yang Jianan. Originally he and Deputy Bureau Chief Song didn't have any big conflicts, but this time they directly fell out. "What about you? What I said makes sense, right?" Xia Zhili sneered and said, "All right, if you have the guts, find that girl and confront her. I don't believe that this matter was caused by Yang Jianan." As the two of them were arguing, Song Huawu and Xia Shibin also came. They stood not far away and were a little shocked, especially Song Huawu. She was very puzzled. How did Xiao Qin get involved in such a matter? She didn't think that Xiao Qin would go after a girl. It would be fine if there were no beauties at home. She, Song Huawu, had slept beside Xiao Qin for so long and nothing had happened. Would Xiao Qin have the time to go after a girl? Moreover, the most important thing was that they had come back from drinking yesterday and were all in a daze. How could they have the strength and energy to do this? "Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, I hope that you won't interfere with the investigation of our supervisory group. If you want to confront her, that's fine. I'm going to bring that girl to identify her." Lu Zhanlong walked out at this time. He also heard the argument between Xia Zhili and Deputy Bureau Chief Song, so he spoke up. Xia Zhili snorted coldly. Song Billion frowned. Although he also felt that this matter was strange and he was afraid that it was related to Pang Fengde, He naturally couldn't not take advantage of this good opportunity to get rid of Yang Jianan. Go and take a look. Did this person kidnap you? Lu Zhanlong said, since you saw it from the rearview mirror of the car, you should be able to roughly recognize that person, right? Oh. The girl nodded reluctantly. Xia Zhili's face was gloomy. He looked at the girl and shouted, don't talk nonsense or you will be responsible. Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, please don't talk nonsense. This is the eldest daughter of the Wang family. You should know what kind of existence the Wang family is. It is a branch of the Wang family. Are you threatening the Wang family to cause trouble for our Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Lu Zhanlong warned coldly. Chapter 620. In Tianfang Wang family? Xia Zhili's face suddenly changed. Although the Tianfang Wang family was also one of the real martial families, and the Supernatural Investigation Bureau wasn't afraid of them, they weren't an ordinary real martial family. This was a branch of the Wulin family, so it was different. Although the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's headquarters were also in Tianfang province, they didn't interfere with the Wang family. Sometimes they even helped each other. However, why didn't the Wang family's Missy know about the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Seeing Xia Zhili being defeated, Song Billion was very refreshed. He sneered, some people, the more they jump around, the faster they die. Take a look. Do you know him? Lu Zhanlong brought the girl to the door of the basement room where Xiao Qin was. He pointed at Xiao Qin and asked, look carefully. I know him. The girl looked carefully and was immediately overjoyed. How is it? Lu Zhanlong's heart relaxed, then he sneered, okay, lock Yang Jianan up and then take this girl to the hospital for a checkup. Investigate her identity, make a detailed statement, communicate with her family, and then hand Yang Jianan over to the local judicial department. Brother Xiao, why are you here? Were you also caught by these bad guys? Lan Xinxin saw Xiao Chen and was very happy. She rushed to Xiao Chen's side. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau's men didn't expect the girl to dare to rush inside. After all, they were people who liked her. It was good that she wasn't afraid, so they didn't put up any defenses. Lan Xinxin? Xiao Chen finally remembered who this girl was. It was actually the 36B Lan Xinxin on the plane. No wonder she looked familiar. It was just that her hair was disheveled and it was just a flash, so he didn't see it clearly. Brother Xiao, are you okay there? Can you still use it? I've been worried about you these days. Let me help you check it? These days, Lan Xinxin had been thinking about Xiao Chen's matter. She wasn't a scheming person. Once she had something on her mind, she would always be depressed and unable to let it go. She was afraid that if she was not careful, she would harm Xiao Chen for the rest of his life. However, she couldn't contact Xiao Chen. She added Xiao Chen's Weixin, but Xiao Chen didn't let her pass the verification. Just as she was worrying about it, she finally met Xiao Chen. The troubles of the past few days were suddenly released. She didn't care much and reached out to pull Xiao Chen's crotch. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. What was the relationship between these two people? It didn't seem like a rape. Instead, they looked like a couple flirting. Otherwise, why would this girl make such a bold move? She even wanted to check Yang Jianan's crotch. Wasn't this something that only a very close couple would do? This situation made Lu Zhanlong dumbfounded. However, Xia Zhili immediately reacted and shouted, Lu Zhanlong, you're abusing your power. They're clearly boyfriend and girlfriend. Your boyfriend and girlfriend eating some drugs to liven things up is called MX? Are you bullying me because I'm crippled and don't understand? But I've read a lot of books. Lu Zhanlong's eyes widened, but he didn't dare to refute. He knew that if he dared to refute, he would probably be kicked away by Xia Zhili. As long as it involved Xia Zhili's problem, Xia Zhili would explode. And even if Xia Zhili exploded, even the director wouldn't say anything. These years, Xia Zhili had been working hard to plunder cultivation resources for cultivation. In fact, the director might not really know about this. It was just that he had made great contributions when he was young. His body was disabled, he didn't have any other thoughts, and he didn't have any children. He only had a little pursuit on the path of martial arts, so he turned a blind eye to it. Otherwise, even if Xia Zhili wasn't fired, he wouldn't be promoted. Everyone was well aware of this. Xia Zhili's problem was his reverse scale. Whoever touched it would die. Only an acquaintance can do it. Song Billion saw that things were going bad. He vaguely knew that this matter might have been caused by Pang Fengda, so he had to stand up and suppress Yang Jianan. You see, although they know each other, it might not be an acquaintance. If you don't believe me, you can ask them if they are in a relationship. Are you in a relationship? Lu Zhanlong's eyes lit up as if he had grasped something and immediately asked. No. What's going on with you? Why are you asking so many questions? Let us go. Lan Xinxin was a little impatient. Song Billion laughed and said, you are not in a relationship. Yesterday you were drugged and captured by him to sleep in the same bed with you. Do you know that? Do you still think of him as a friend? You've been deceived. That's right. Lu Zhanlong nodded. So, Yang Jianan hasn't been cleared of suspicion. We must start the investigation now. All right, separate them and take them away separately for investigation. Song Billion said with a wave of his hand. Song Huawu saw that the situation wasn't good. Although she didn't know what the relationship between Xiao Chen and the girl in front of her was, if this continued, it would be disadvantageous to Xiao Chen. Instructor Song and Pang Fengda obviously wanted to kill Xiao Chen. When the time came, they would really have no choice but to forge some evidence. Especially when she heard that this girl was from the Wang clan, she was even more worried. Even if nothing happened, rumors would spread in the end. For the sake of face, the Wang clan would have to settle the score with Xiao Chen. This was basically a plan that failed. Wait a minute. Although Song Huawu knew that if she stood up, Instructor Song might be unhappy, she still stood up. She couldn't watch Xiao Chen be framed. She could not be close to Xiao Chen, not carry out missions with Xiao Chen or even ignore Xiao Chen. She could listen to Instructor Song, but she knew that Xiao Chen was not in the wrong and still wanted to frame him. That was definitely not acceptable. Oh, Team Leader Song, what's the matter? Lu Zhanlong looked at Song Huawu. He didn't know which side Song Huawu was on. Those who understood would know that Song Huawu was from the newcomer group, but recently she had been very close to Yang Jianan. In any case, Song Huawu was the newly appointed team leader of Team C. Lu Zhanlong had to give her some face. Last night, Yang Jianan and I were drinking and eating mutton skewers. He didn't have the time to commit the crime. There should be a video of the hotel lobby. We went out together, came back together, and were together the whole time. Song Huawu said, as for how this girl ran into Yang Jianan's room, I just want to see the surveillance video. This. Lu Zhanlong was shocked. He had a preconceived idea that Xiao Chen was guilty, but after listening to Song Huawu's solemn vow, he was a little uncertain. What if they caught the wrong person? Although he was impartial, he was also a person who cared about his reputation. After hesitating for a moment, he looked at Song Billion, wanting to see what he had to say. Huawu, don't get involved in this kind of thing. I've just asked. There was something wrong with the surveillance yesterday. It's all broken. Song Billion waved his hand and said, I know that you two used to be in a relationship, but now that you have broken up, you don't have to protect him. Don't be emotional. After listening to Song Billion's words, Lu Zhanlong was relieved. Since it was emotional, it was a one-sided cover-up. However, it was a bit amazing that the surveillance was broken. Lu Zhanlong planned to retrieve the surveillance video as evidence later. Pang Fengda, who was far away, was shocked. He didn't expect the hotel's surveillance. Although it was done secretly yesterday, it definitely couldn't escape from the hotel's surveillance. He didn't often stay in this hotel, so he didn't know that there was a surveillance camera in the hotel corridor. Now, listening to Song Billion, it must have been destroyed. He felt lucky in his heart, but he was even happier. It seemed that Song Billion was on his side. Now, listening to what he said, Xiao Chen and Song Huawu had broken up. Then he had a great opportunity. However, looking at Song Huawu's appearance, she still had feelings for Xiao Chen. This time he must kill Xiao Chen. He must not be lenient. The most important thing was that Song Billion also supported him. Then he was even more assured and bold. What nonsense are you talking about? I know him. Are you crazy? Even if he f***ed me, I was willing to do it. At this moment, Lan Xinxin opened her mouth. She was suffocated. These people chattered non-stop. She was about to die of annoyance. When the two of us came, we took the same plane. On the plane, I made an appointment with him to test him, whether that part of his is good or not. Aren't you guys being too nosy? Why are you controlling everything? Can't we have a date? Xiao Chen suddenly broke into a sweat. This Lan Xinxin was really heartless. She could say anything. However, thinking about her behavior on the plane, he knew that she was a heartless person. She dared to jump out with any words. This was even more so when she was anxious. Song Huawu was also a little shocked. This woman. She knew Xiao Chen on the plane? At this time, Xia Shibin also stood up and said, Yes, I can testify that Group Leader Yang also helped Miss Lan catch two liars. Group Leader Yang saved the beauty, and Miss Lan secretly agreed. She had long wanted to devote herself to him. If you don't believe me, you can investigate the records on the plane. Lu Zhanlong didn't know what to do. If it was really as Lan Xinxin said, then nothing would happen to Xiaoqin. You can control the heavens and the earth, but you can control people's dating? Moreover, they are unmarried. You can't say that there is a problem with their style, right? Song Bilian had already said that Yang Jianan and Song Huawu had broken up. It was reasonable for Yang Jianan to find a new lover. However, he was a little nosy. No, even if this woman agreed subjectively, she was drugged. This is also considered a drug. Even if it's not easy to convict her, it also proves that Yang Jianan has bad intentions. He must accept internal punishment. Song Bilian saw that things were going bad. He couldn't beat Xiaoqin to death with a stick, so he immediately jumped out and said, Chapter 621. I ate barbecue with Song Huawu yesterday. The barbecue shop staff and the boss can prove it. At this time, Xiaoqin also calmed down. This matter was most likely caused by Pang Fingda, but isn't this Song Bilian too despicable? He actually helped Pang Fingda to do this kind of thing. In his opinion, someone who could cultivate Song Huawu, who was loyal to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and was upright and just, should be a broad-minded person. He didn't expect him to be a villain. Now it seemed that this guy was even more sinister than Xia Zhili. At least Xia Zhili wouldn't play dirty. He desperately snatched resources because he had a physical defect. He was disabled for the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. At most, his mentality was a bit extreme. However, Song Bilian was simply shameless. He was distorting the truth. Oh, then let's find them to confirm it. Although Lu Zhanlong felt that if the case was reversed he might lose face, but his personal face still succumbed to the thoughts of justice. Song Bilian's face changed, but he couldn't stop it. He could only hope that the barbecue shop owner would forget about it. After all, there were many customers every day. It was normal to forget. Yes, team leader Yang, what barbecue shop is it? The underling also noticed the change in the situation at this time, and he was respectful to Xiaoqin. It's called 123 Barbecue Food Stall, said Xiaoqin. Okay. The subordinate accepted the order and left quickly. Brother Xiao, who are these people? Why are they falsely accusing you? Why are there so many liars and bad people in this world? Lan Xinxin was a little tired of it. Can I go now? You can go in a while. Xiaoqin nodded to her, indicating that she shouldn't be in a hurry. I didn't go back last night. My parents should be worried about me. Lan Xinxin was shocked and exclaimed. It's okay. It will be quick. Xiaoqin said with a smile. Even if the barbecue shop owner couldn't confirm it, this matter wouldn't have much to do with Xiaoqin. Not long after, the barbecue shop owner and the staff were found. Lu Zhanlong glanced at them and asked, Do you know this person? As he spoke, he pointed to Xiaoqin and reminded, Look carefully. This is a serious matter. The boss yawned. He had slept very late last night. They were all food stalls that operated at night, so they did not rest for long before they were woken up. Naturally, he was still a little dazed. His head was a little swollen as he replied blankly, I don't know him. Haha. Song Bilian laughed proudly. How is it? Yang Jianan, do you have anything else to say? Xiaoqin was slightly stunned. He didn't expect the boss to say that. However, looking at the boss's squinting eyes, Xiaoqin suspected that the boss didn't look at it at all and said that subconsciously. This made him a little annoyed. He couldn't help but say angrily, I gave you 1,000 yuan yesterday. Did you forget? Xiaoqin's words didn't wake the boss up. Instead, the shop assistant on the side was startled. He opened his eyes wide and looked up and down at Xiaoqin. He shouted, Aya, it's him. Boss, it's him. He gave us 100 yuan less yesterday. Kid, hurry up and pay up. Because of you, I was scolded by the boss yesterday. What? When the boss heard that he had money, he suddenly became sober. He looked at Xiaoqin and then looked at Song Huawu. He said, Yes, it's this kid. He took 100 bottles of beer and 200 mutton skewers from me, and he only gave me 1,000 yuan. It's obviously 1,100 yuan. Hurry up and pay up. Xiaoqin was stunned. Your beer is so expensive? Nonsense, this is a high-end one. The boss rolled his eyes and said, Yesterday the lady took this herself. There was a 2 yuan bottle next to her, but she didn't take it. Later I saw you drinking it, so I served this. I thought you knew. Well, I'm sorry. As Xiaoqin said this, he took out 200 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the boss. He said, The extra 100 yuan is interest. That's not bad. The boss accepted it with a smile. Looking at these people in front of him echoing each other, Lu Zhanlong also understood what was going on. Xiao Qin and Song Huawu did eat there for a night, and because he gave 100 yuan less, this guy remembered it very clearly. Now he could be sure that there was no problem with Xiao Qin. However, why is there a problem with this video? Although Yang Jianan can be temporarily eliminated as a suspect, it can't be guaranteed that he ordered his men to do it. So, I think it's still necessary to study the video. Lu Zhanlong said, "This video can't all be broken, right? I saw some of them. They are wireless and use memory cards as a medium. These shouldn't be broken, right? This?" Song Billion was shocked and immediately said, "There's no need. Since the parties don't want to pursue it, we don't need to trouble ourselves. Everyone can disperse. Team leader Lu, this time it's hard on you. But you see, these two parties said, that kind of relationship. Why do we care so much? They might have taken the drug to liven things up. Young people nowadays are very crazy. It's common to do things like SM. Let's not bother about it. Then forget it." Xia Zhili didn't want to cause more trouble. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone can disperse." Since the two deputy bureau chiefs had spoken in unison, Lu Zhanlong couldn't insist. Moreover, he now thought that Xiao Qin was innocent. He didn't want to care about this anymore. Thinking of this, he nodded and said, "I'm sorry, team leader Yang. I wronged you before." "It's nothing. You were also used as a tool. I don't blame you," Xiao Qin said with a wave of his hand. Lu Zhanlong nodded and left with his people. Song Billion glanced at Song Huawu and shouted, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and go." "Oh." Song Huawu nodded and followed Song Billion. As for Xiao Qin, he looked at Lan Xinxin strangely. "Why are you here? Why are you so careless? Can you blame me for that? I parked the car and I was caught. This kind of random event with a small probability. Whoever encounters it will be unlucky. There are so many people who are kidnapped. Who would want to be kidnapped?" Lan Xinxin was also a little depressed. "Right, it's fine now. Tell me the truth. Last night, did you find that it didn't work? Was it broken by me?" "Ah." Xiao Qin was stunned. "Then why didn't you do anything to me? It must be broken, right?" Although Lan Xinxin was a bit careless, she wasn't stupid. If it were someone else, she wouldn't be so concerned, but the crisp "kacha" sound on the plane made her a little worried. It was definitely not good. Xiao Qin didn't seek medical treatment in time. How could there not be a problem? Therefore, she had been thinking about this matter. "Brother Xiao, you can't hide your illness for fear of treatment. This isn't shameful. How about I accompany you to the hospital and say that we were too crazy, so it broke? Let's see if it can be cured," Lan Xinxin said with a serious face. Her words, with this expression, made Xiao Qin feel that it was so funny. However, Xiao Qin still said, "Sister, let me go. I'm really fine. Okay, hurry home. Your parents are still worried about you." "Oh, then if you have something, you must contact me." Lan Xinxin remembered that she had to go home quickly. After she finished speaking, she hurried out. Xiao Qin shook his head helplessly and turned to go upstairs. "Brother Yang, this matter must be caused by Pang Fengda. We can't just let it go," Xia Shibin said with hatred. Xiao Qin nodded. If Pang Fengda was still jumping up and down, Xiao Qin didn't mind finding a chance to kill him. He originally wanted this guy to die on the horse. Xiao Qin didn't believe that this person was so loyal to Song Huawu that he wouldn't look for other women. However, because the Sun family died on the horse, many people knew that it was Xiao Qin who did it. Therefore, in order to avoid exposure, Xiao Qin didn't do it, but it didn't mean that he couldn't think of other deceptive means. Pang Fengda's face was pale as he stood in a room. Sitting in front of him was Song Billion. At this moment, Song Billion had already scolded Pang Fengda. "You idiot, can't you use your brain? What did I teach you in the beginning? You have to plan before you act. Impulsiveness is the devil." "Yes." Pang Fengda lowered his head. He was indeed impulsive and blinded by hatred. "However, Instructor Song, you said before that we have to be courageous in doing things. It's right to be courageous, but it's stupid to die for no reason." Song Billion said, "Your plan seems to be flawless, but in fact it's full of loopholes. First, you didn't think of the monitoring problem. Second, you didn't investigate this woman's background carefully. You didn't know that she knew Yang Jianan. Third, you shouldn't have chosen to act when Yang Jianan was drunk. You really didn't do anything last night." "Yes, I know I was wrong." Pang Fengda lowered his head and said carefully. "And it's good that you know you're wrong. What are you going to do next? Song Billion asked. I'll keep a low profile first and hide. I'll wait for an opportunity to counterattack. I can't let Yang Jianan find evidence that I did it before. I won't leave anything behind. Pang Fengde said. Idiot. Song Billion said angrily, you don't know how to take advantage of such a good opportunity. How did I teach you? You're so excellent and smart in other things. How can you be so stupid when it comes to your own matters? Then Pang Fengde was stunned. What you should do now is take advantage of the situation. Song Billion said. Now we know that the woman is from the Wang family. Do you still need me to tell you what to do next? Pang Fengde suddenly slapped his thigh. He suddenly saw the light. As long as we spread the news that Yang Jianan slept with that woman last night, the Wang family will naturally come looking for trouble with Yang Jianan. Chapter 622. That's right. Song Billion nodded. But if the woman explains it clearly and goes back to check and finds that she wasn't violated, then? Pang Fengde was still a little worried. Tianfang Wang family, don't forget the character of the Wang family. You can tell just by looking at the little girl's character. Their family may be genetically inherited or it may be a coincidence. The current family head is also a person who is a little reckless. Song Billion smiled and said, even if they don't find trouble with Yang Jianan for the sake of the Tianfang Wang family's reputation, they must have an explanation. Seeing that the little girl likes Yang Jianan, they must let Yang Jianan marry her. Ah, wonderful. Pang Fengde was suddenly overjoyed. Instructor Song is amazing. Otherwise, why would you be my instructor? In this way, Yang Jianan married a member of the Tianfang Wang family. According to the rules of our Supernatural Investigation Bureau, important personnel like us can't be too close to a certain family. Then Yang Jianan must resign. Even if Xia Zhili interfered, Yang Jianan could keep his position, but he couldn't go any further. The position of Team B would fall to his friend Wang Chaik, and Song Huawu couldn't deal with the married Yang Jianan anymore. Even if Song Huawu was willing, the Tianfang Wang family wouldn't be willing. And do you know what to do next? Song Billion nodded and said. I understand, Instructor Song. Don't worry. I will definitely do it properly this time. Pang Fengde nodded and walked out of the room quickly. If the Supernatural Investigation Bureau wanted to convey any news at the family level, it was very fast. In less than 2 hours, every family in Tianfang province spread the news that the granddaughter of the Tianfang Wang family's family head, Wang Tietio, was slept with. Moreover, it was the deputy team leader of Team B of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. This news was very explosive. How would the Wang family and the Supernatural Investigation Bureau react? After Lan Xinxin returned home, she took a shower and rested. Although the family was very curious about her disappearance for a night, if she didn't say anything they wouldn't ask. Lan Xinxin's position in the Wang family was very strange. That was, Lan Xinxin was born from the lover of Wang Benbin, the son of Wang Tietio. Wang Benbin's lover was always ill, so Wang Benbin naturally didn't pamper her much. All these years he basically just greeted her and didn't show any other care, let alone staying overnight. According to the rules of the Wang family, this woman was definitely not allowed to enter the family. However, there was an exception. The patriarch, Wang Tietio, was very fond of Lan Xinxin, his granddaughter. He felt that Lan Xinxin had inherited his traits and was a straightforward person. Therefore, Lan Xinxin and her mother were brought into the Wang family. However, Lan Xinxin was very stubborn. She didn't want to follow the Wang family's surname and insisted on following her mother's surname. However, Wang Tietio acquiesced, and the other members of the Wang family couldn't say anything. Wang Tietio naturally heard the news that others had heard. When he heard this rumor, he was about to explode. Someone actually dared to sleep with Wang Tietio's granddaughter? Do you want to die? When he heard that it was the deputy team leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team B, Wang Tietio was even more furious. He immediately called his son Wang Benfen. Father, you were looking for me? Wang Benfen wasn't a tiger man. Instead, he was a meticulous person. Therefore, he wasn't liked by Wang Tietio. No matter how Wang Tietio looked at him, he didn't like him at all. If it wasn't for the fact that he had a son who was doing well in Lan City, and Wang Tietio had the intention to make his son the young patriarch, he wouldn't have let Wang Benfen appear in front of him. However, the world was unpredictable. The son he valued, his grandson, had been taken away to cultivate. He also planned to nurture a grandson, so Wang Benfen became the current transitional figure. You little bastard, Do you know that your daughter has been slept with? Wang Qiuqiu roared. Ah. Wang Benfen was stunned. Xin. Nonsense. Hurry up and find her. I want to ask what's going on. This matter can't be let go like this. My Wang family has a reputation in Tianfang province. Isn't this a joke? Before Wang Qiuqiu could ask what was going on, he started to flip out. When I catch that little bastard, I'll kill him with a hammer. Wang Benfen nodded quickly and said, Yes, then I'll go find Xin and ask. Hurry up, run forward, hurry up. Wang Qiuqiu roared, You're really a waste of the name I gave you. You're so slow and not quick at all. I think you should be renamed to Wang Guipeng. Yes. Wang Benfen didn't dare to say much and quickly ran forward. Lan Xin was asked to come. She was somewhat inexplicable. She just came back and planned to rest for a while, but she was called up by her father. In fact, Wang Benfen didn't like Lan Xin very much. Otherwise he wouldn't have given her so little pocket money, but Wang Qiuqiu liked her very much. However, Lan Xin was also ambitious. No matter if Wang Qiuqiu wanted money, he would give it. If not, she wouldn't want it. Xin, where did you go last night? Wang Qiuqiu looked at Lan Xin with some worry. He looked her up and down as if he wanted to see some problems. I didn't go anywhere. It was too late, so I stayed at a friend's place. Lan Xin said. Oh, is that your boyfriend or girlfriend? Wang Qiuqiu asked with squinted eyes. It's girlfriend. Lan Xin's heart was beating like a drum. Grandpa asked me what these things are for, but she didn't say anything about Xiaoqian. Otherwise, with Grandpa's character, he would definitely look for her. Girlfriend? Nonsense. Wang Qiuqiu was suddenly furious. Xin, how can you lie to Grandpa? Grandpa has already found out. It's a man, and he's the deputy leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team B. Am I right? Lan Xin was dumbfounded. She didn't expect Grandpa's information channels to be so well informed. In the blink of an eye, he knew everything. Of course, she didn't know that someone deliberately spread this rumor. Otherwise, no matter how well informed Wang Qiuqiu was, he wouldn't know about this. Now, you actually dare to lie to Grandpa for a man? Wang Qiuqiu widened his eyes and looked at Lan Xin, making Lan Xin a little worried. However, he changed the topic and said, Since you're already sleeping, what are you afraid of? The children of our Wang family have to be responsible for what we do. Now, immediately find that person called Yang Jianan and discuss your marriage. What? Lan Xin was stunned. She didn't expect Grandpa to let her marry Xiao Chang. She thought that they were just good friends now? Grandpa, you don't have to worry about my matters. What are you talking about? How can I not worry about it? Bullshit, how can I not worry about it? Now the outside world is saying that my Wang Qiuqiu's granddaughter was slept with by someone. If I don't quickly settle your matters, wouldn't I be ridiculed? Wang Qiuqiu shouted, All right, run. You immediately run forward and find that Yang Jianan. Then discuss your marriage with Xin. Dad, isn't this a bit hasty? Our Wang family is also a reputable family. At least, we need to find someone of equal status. Wang Benpei's original intention was to betroth Lan Xin to his friend's son, but he didn't expect this to happen. Bullsh*T. Is your head full of sh*T? Xin is a girl. She was slept with by someone. Why do you care so much? Wang Qiuqiu glared and said, Her reputation is gone. Why do you still need someone of equal status? Besides, isn't the leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team B fine too? This? All right. Wang Benpei didn't dare to refute. He felt that this matter was too strange. His father was too King reckless. He didn't care about the truth at all. Besides, which girl in a big family didn't have a lot of fun before marriage? At that time, they could still find a big family for the sake of family benefits. This was especially so for a powerful family like the Wang family, which also had a backer in the martial arts world, so they were even more sought after. However, he did not dare to disobey. He was really a little depressed. In the past, when second uncle was the master of the family, he was even more powerful than now. Second uncle was a man with brains, so he naturally liked people with brains. He was valued by second uncle and entrusted with important tasks. He was doing very well in Lan City. However, when his father took over as the family head, he became an errand boy instead. He had to deal with trivial matters all day. The only consolation was that his son was valued by his father and was prepared to be the young master. He came all the way to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's hotel. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Song Billion sitting in the hotel lobby drinking coffee. He knew Song Billion, so he immediately rushed over and asked, "Deputy Bureau Chief Song, are you resting? Isn't this Brother Wang? Why did you come to our hotel? Do you want to stay or?" Song Billion deliberately sat here and waited for the Wang family to come to him, but he couldn't make it clear first. "Deputy Bureau Chief Song, I won't be polite with you. My father gave the order. I have to rush back immediately to report. I heard that the deputy leader of your Supernatural Investigation Bureau's Team B is called Yang Jianan. My old man is looking for him," said Wang Benpai. "Why is old man Wang looking for him? Can you tell me what's the matter?" Song Billion was very happy. His plan seemed to be very successful. In the blink of an eye, the Wang family came to him. "It's hard to say. Deputy Bureau Chief Song, can you tell me where Yang Jianan is?" Wang Benpai found it difficult to speak. How can I say this? He didn't believe that Song Billion didn't hear about it, so he was too lazy to explain. "This is upstairs. Let me take you to find him." Song Billion was afraid that Xiao Chen would run away. He could also use his identity as the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's deputy bureau chief to deter Xiao Chen so that Xiao Chen wouldn't dare to act rashly. It would be best for him to go back with Wang Benpai. Then the situation would be set. The two of them went upstairs and came to the door of Xiao Chen's room. Song Billion knocked on the door. Chapter 623. Xiao Chen was taking a nap when someone knocked on the door. He was annoyed. "Who is this? Is there no end to it? What?" He got out of bed and opened the door, only to see Song Billion and a somewhat familiar man. "Yang Jianan, this is Wang Bengbao from the Wang family. He is here to look for you," Song Billion said. "Now follow him back." Xiao Chen was stunned. "Wang family? This person is from the Wang family? Yang Jianan? I am Lan Xinxin's father. You should know why I am looking for you, right? Alright, come with me. My father is looking for you." Wang Bengbao didn't waste any time. He believed that once he mentioned Lan Xinxin's name, Xiao Chen would follow him. Xiao Chen was surprised to hear the middle-aged man's words. Lan Xinxin is from the Wang family? Or this man's daughter? Why is her surname Lan? Also, Xiao Chen recognized who this middle-aged man was. When he was in junior high, Xiao Chen often went to his house to play. He often saw this man. He was Wang Bengbao's father, Wang Bengbao. At that time, Xiao Chen was puzzled. Wang Bengbao looked normal. Why was his son drunk? Now he finally understood. Perhaps Wang Bengbao had no problem, but the Wang family's genes were like this. Otherwise, why would Lan Xinxin be like this? Thinking about Wang Bengbao's behavior, Lan Xinxin's behavior was not surprising. They were really siblings. In the past, many people said that he and Xiao Xiao weren't siblings. He was speechless. However, if someone dared to say that Wang Bengbao and Lan Xinxin weren't siblings, then they must be blind. "May I know why Uncle Wang is looking for me?" Xiao Chen thought about the man's identity and was a lot more polite. After all, whether it was from Wang Bengbao or Lan Xinxin's point of view, he had to be respectful. "Yes, you will know when you come with me." Seeing how respectful Xiao Chen was, Wang Baobai's mood improved a lot. If it was a rebellious person, he would be very unhappy. After all, in his opinion, the people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau were very powerful. He had dealt with them a few times and they were always on equal footing. It was rare to see someone like Xiao Chen who considered himself a junior. Song Billion was also shocked. What was wrong with Yang Jianan? He didn't seem like such a humble person. Could it be that he had really turned around and started dating Lan Xinxin? He was a little disappointed. He wanted Xiao Chen and Wang Benbin to fight. Although Wang Benbin was weaker than him, as long as he fought with Xiao Chen, no matter who won or lost, Xiao Chen and the Wang family would become enemies, and then there would be a lot of things to deal with. But now was also fine. If Xiao Chen was willing to marry into the Wang clan, then let him be. As long as he didn't obstruct Song Huawu and Pang Fengda's good things, it was fine. "Okay then, Uncle Wang, please lead the way." Xiao Chen nodded. He knew that Wang Benbin came to find him because he and Lan Xinxin slept together, but he couldn't not go. He followed Wang Benbin all the way down the stairs and got into his Audi A8. This was not a car that martial artists liked to drive. Martial artists generally liked domineering off-road vehicles or sports cars that pursued speed. This kind of stable luxury car was probably only Wang Benbin liked it. The Wang family was a big family in Tianfang province. On the edge of the city, there was a super large manor that belonged to the Wang family. It was similar to the Xin family that Xiao Chen had visited before, but the Wang family was bigger. Along the way, Wang Benben drove and didn't talk to Xiao Chen. Naturally, Xiao Chen didn't take the initiative to talk. Instead, he sat on the side and was neither servile nor overbearing. Wang Benben felt that this young man was good. Although it was a pity that Lan Xinxin couldn't marry the son of his friend, Yang Jianan was also a talented person. He also knew when to advance and when to retreat. If the Wang family trained him, even if he couldn't be promoted to the next level in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, his power would increase. Thinking of this, Wang Benben was a little relieved. The car drove into the manor and stopped at the door of a villa. He said, "We're here. Get off the car. I will take you to see my father. Don't talk nonsense later. My father has a bad temper." "Yes, thank you, Uncle Wang." Xiao Chen nodded. Wang Benben led the way in front, and Xiao Chen followed behind. The two of them entered the villa one after another. Seeing someone coming in, Wang Qiqiu ran directly over. When he saw the person behind his son, he suddenly pointed and said, "Boy, you are Yang Jianan. Are you the one who slept with my granddaughter?" "Pooh." Xiao Chen almost choked to death by his own saliva. "Old man Wang, where did you get this from? When did your granddaughter? You still don't admit it?" "Xinxin has admitted it." Wang Qiqiu's eyes stared at Xiao Chen. "You say it. When are you two getting married? Pick a day. My Wang family is also a prestigious family. We must pay attention to extravagance. Old man Wang, this matter? Do you think there is a misunderstanding? Why don't you call Xinxin out and ask her?" Xiao Chen was a little depressed. "Did they ask me to force a marriage?" "There's no need to ask. That silly girl will definitely speak for you. She doesn't even know that she suffered a loss. In this family I have the final say. I already represent her." Old man Wang waved his hand and said, "Yang Jianan, you give me a definite answer now. When are you getting married? Don't think about reneging on the debt. There are not so many good things in this world. It's impossible for you to do that." "Old man Wang, listen to me first." Xiao Chen was speechless because of old man Wang's loud voice. He finally found a chance to interrupt. "Shouldn't we take our time to think about this? Lan Xinxin and I are not in the kind of relationship that you think. We are just friends." "Friends? Boyfriend and girlfriend?" Wang Qiqiu snorted coldly. "Or are you flirting with her?" "But we really didn't flirt." Xiao Chen was also a little anxious. "If I did it, then I did it. If I didn't do it, then I didn't do it." Yet, he insisted that I did it and wanted to marry his granddaughter. It was really unreasonable. If it weren't for Wang Fantian and Lan Xinxin, he would have already turned around and left. "Yang Jianan, it's useless for you to say this. Let me tell you, the news has spread outside. You must settle this matter with the Wang family. Either you marry my granddaughter and everyone is happy, or you commit suicide." Wang Qiqiu said unreasonably. "This." Xiao Chen slapped his forehead. He suddenly felt a headache. To be honest, Xiao Chen wasn't that kind of rigid person. Since he promised Tian Soran to pretend to be her boyfriend, marrying Lan Xinxin wasn't a big deal. After all, the two of them slept in the same room for a night. Regardless of whether she was framed or not, for the sake of his reputation, Xiao Chen could reluctantly agree. But the key problem was that his current identity was Yang Jianan. What would happen if he married Lan Xinxin? If Xiao Chen's identity was exposed, wouldn't it implicate Lan Xinxin? Moreover, Xiao Chen couldn't take the initiative to tell the Wang family about his identity. If he told them with the Wang family's character, they might leak it out and let others know. Therefore, Xiao Chen was in a bit of a dilemma. He didn't think that the identity of the Wang family's son-in-law could protect him. Even the identity of the demonic star sect's disciple was useless, let alone the identity of the Wang family's son-in-law. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't know the Wang family's power in the martial arts world. But even if he knew, he couldn't be so careless. "Yang Jianan, let me tell you, I'll give you a few days to think about it. You have to settle this for me. It's not that my Xinxin can't get married. She and you are mutually in love. If you take the attitude of playing around, then I can tell you responsibly that the Wang family isn't a pushover. Even Xinxin's brother is also a master. He can kill you with one punch." Wang Qiqiu threatened, then said, "Okay, run, send him out." "Yes, father." Wang Benben nodded. He didn't say a word. Anyway, Wang Qiqiu was the only one in charge of the family, and he was just an errand boy. After walking out of the villa, Xiao Chen said, "Uncle Wang, I really have nothing to do with Xinxin. Can you talk to old Master Wang?" "I don't think it's a problem, but if he says it's a problem, then it's a problem." Wang Benben said angrily, What? You don't like my daughter? I tell you, I don't want to get married yet, but my father has already spoken. I can't do anything about it. If you don't want to die, listen to him. Xiao Chen was a little speechless. It seemed that Wang Benbin had no right to speak at all. After being sent out of the door, Wang Benbin didn't drive again, which made Xiao Chen very depressed. He could only run back. There wasn't even a taxi here, so he turned into Xiao Chen. After running a few steps, Xiao Chen took out his mobile phone and dialed Wang Benbin's number. Hey, boss, what's the matter? Wang Benbin picked up the phone. Where did you go a few days ago? Why didn't you come back after you left? Are you still in Songning? No, I'm in Tianfang province. Let me ask you, do you have a sister named Lan Xinxin? Asked Xiao Chen. How did you know? Wang Benbin was stunned and suddenly said excitedly, Did you see her? Isn't she very beautiful? I told you that I would introduce my sister to you, and you wouldn't pursue that Shenjing Xian. You didn't want to do it. Now you know how beautiful my sister is, right? Xiao Chen thought about it. Wang Benbin really said something like this before. I saw her, but I'm also in trouble. What? What trouble? Wang Benbin didn't understand. It's like this. Xiao Chen didn't hide anything from Wang Benbin. He started talking about 36B on the plane until he was forced to marry by the Wang family. If that's the case, then boss, I can't speak for you this time. On the plane, you discussed such a private topic with my sister, and then you slept on the same bed. Then marry her. Wang Benbin changed his usual support for Xiao Chen and suddenly changed his tone. Chapter 624. I'm looking for you to discuss a strategy. Aren't you just causing trouble? Xiao Chen said angrily, You know my real identity. And me, Menjing Jingxian and the others? Aya, what can we do? When the time comes, the Wang family will help you deal with the Shen family and the Qing family. Just give them some benefits. At most, let their daughter be a co-wife. You can marry them all. Anyway, we martial artists don't care about these things, Wang Fantian said. Forget it. It's fine. I'm not talking to you anymore. Xiao Chen felt that his call was wasted. Wang Fantian had tried to sell his sister to him before. Now he came again. He probably knew that with his sister's personality, ordinary people wouldn't be able to handle her. Oh right, these few days Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan don't seem to be in good spirits. I saw them a few times but they were listless. They even asked me where you went, but I don't know. Wang Fantian said, Oh right, we talked to you on Weixin but you didn't reply. We didn't dare to call you. And then don't say anything more. Xiao Chen sighed. Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan were probably just a fleeting memory in their lives. They would never cross paths again. As time went by, they would get used to it and everything would be fine. Okay. Wang Fantian said, My sister is really good. Why don't you try marriage first? Then you will know. Xiao Chen hung up the phone. Now they were forcing him to marry. Trial marriage? Of course he had to try. In the Wang family, Wang Tietio asked Wang Benbin, who had returned, to look for Lan Xinxin again. Lan Xinxin was a little scared. She looked around but didn't see Xiao Chen. Don't look anymore. I asked him to go back. Wang Tietio waved his hand. It seems that you still like him. I'm relieved. Xinxin, you don't have any objections to marrying him, right? Lan Xinxin's face suddenly turned a little red. In fact, she only had a good impression of Xiao Chen. She didn't reject him, but to marry him all of a sudden, she really wasn't mentally prepared. But thinking about it, Xiao Chen was probably crippled by him. In the future, which girl would follow him? She should be responsible for what she did, so marrying Xiao Chen was a good way to make it up to him. In this way, it would be perfectly justifiable for him to examine him. He could also persuade him to go to the hospital with him. There must be a way to cure him. If there was really no other way, he would beg his grandfather to let him go to the martial arts world to think of a solution. The martial arts world was so powerful, there must be a solution. He had heard that there were some powerful dual cultivation methods that could bring spring to the old trees. However, she couldn't say these words now. If she said that Xiao Chen was crippled, then her grandfather would definitely not let her marry him. Therefore, Lan Xinxin gently nodded, indicating that she agreed. Haha, then it's decided. Wang Tietio slapped his thigh. Okay, I'll let that kid go back and think about it. If he agrees, it's fine. If he doesn't agree, I'll tie him up. Let's kidnap the bride. Anyway, we're in the right. The martial arts world won't say anything. Xiao Chen ran back to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's hotel, feeling a little annoyed. There was a 99% chance that Song Bilian was behind this. When he accompanied Wang Benbin to look for him, Xiaoqin felt that it was a little strange. Now, it seemed that he was the one who spread the news. He's really immoral and keeps creating trouble for me. Even if he doesn't want me to be with Song Huawu, he doesn't need to do this, right? He kidnapped me to the Wang family. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Xia Zhili anxiously pacing around the lobby. When he saw Xiaoqin coming back, he immediately greeted, "Jianan, how is it? I heard that old man Song Bilian spread the news that you and Lan Xinxin. I got the news that you were taken away by the Wang family. I didn't have time to stop it. Don't mention it. The Wang family is forcing me to get married." Xiaoqin waved his hand and took a sip of the free lemonade. Then he said, "I didn't agree, but the Wang family still won't let it go. Jianan, this is a good thing and a bad thing." Xia Zhili sighed. "If you become the son-in-law of the Wang family, you can probably keep your position as the deputy team leader of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, but it will be difficult to go further. The promotion of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau is taboo to have relations with these martial arts families. Unless you make outstanding contributions to the Bureau in the future like last time." "But I don't want to get married so early," Xiaoqin said gloomily. "Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, why don't you assign me a mission and send me out? I'm just going to hide quickly. Out of sight, out of mind. I'll drag it out for a while. When the limelight dies down, the Wang family might just give up." "That's also a way." Xia Zhili nodded. "Then what kind of mission do you want? I'll look for it for you." "I want to go to the Hakanamata Desert. I heard that Xiaoqin appeared there, so I want." Before Xiaoqin could finish his words, Xia Zhili waved his hand and interrupted him. "Hakanamata Desert, right? Okay, I'll look for it for you. You're hiding far away. Looking for Xiaoqin is secondary. In fact, you want to stay away from the Wang family, right?" Xia Zhili smiled and said, not caring about Xiaoqin's reason. Yes." Xiaoqin smiled a little, awkwardly. "Okay, you go back to your room and rest first. I'll look for it for you." Xia Zhili was very optimistic about the current Xiaoqin. His attitude toward him had also changed, and he began to think of ways to protect him. Previously, Xiaoqin felt that Xia Zhili was a very hateful person, but now he felt that Xia Zhili was a real person. He wasn't as sinister as he thought before. On the other hand, Song Bilian was a complete villain. Xiaoqin found it hard to understand. How did this person become the instructor of the newbie group and even get promoted? Little did he know that in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, strength was the most important. After all, people with strength more or less had some shortcomings. This was inevitable. Even the director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau knew this. If he wanted these martial artists to work for him, he couldn't ask for too much. If he asked for too much, that person would leave. He couldn't do anything about it. After all, he wasn't a strong director. His own strength could only be said to be slightly strong. "Okay, Deputy Director Xia, I'll go up first." Xiaoqin nodded. "Right, why do you keep wearing Xiao Chang's mask? You don't take it off?" Xia Zhili suddenly thought of it and asked, "Don't you feel uncomfortable?" "No, I think it's okay." Xiaoqin smiled and said, "It's good to change your face. Don't take it off for a while. Anyway, this is what the Wang family knows now. When the news blows over, I will change back. They won't recognize me then." "That's right." Xia Zhili nodded and said nothing more. Xiaoqin went upstairs to rest. He only saw Xia Shibin, but he didn't see Song Huawu. Xia Shibin was waiting at his door. When he saw him, he immediately said, "Brother Yang, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Xiaoqin waved his hand and opened the door. He said, "Right, where is Huawu?" "I didn't see her. She left with Deputy Director Song." Xia Shibin said, "Damn, this matter was caused by Pang Fengda. Brother Yang, we can't just let it go." "Definitely not." Xiaoqin smiled coldly. This person tipped off the Wang family. Not only him but also Song Bilian. Xiaoqin was also annoyed. "But now it's not good to touch them for the time being. Let's wait for a while." "Yes, if we touch them now we will definitely be suspected." Xia Shibin nodded. "And they are now strong. We have too much trouble." "Xia Shibin, I didn't expect you to be so loyal to me." Xiaoqin didn't expect Xia Shibin to be so attentive to him during this time. Xia Shibin stood on his side for everything. It was not like the previous hostile and coercive relationship. "Brother Yang, to tell you the truth, you treat me much better than the previous Brother Yang. In the past I was just a dog and attendant who ran errands. Now you never order me around. In the past, you even gave me a share of the credit in Lan City and transferred me to Team B. I'm grateful for all these. Xia Shibin said, don't think that I am a smooth person. I had no choice before. I was a newcomer and I offended Deputy Team Leader Xiao Meng. If I didn't rely on Brother Yang, I would have been killed by him. Brother Yang, let me tell you. Don't look at Xiao Meng's appearance. In fact, he's not a good person. Brother Yang made him hover between life and death. That's because he's not capable enough. Of course, he's not your opponent now. Xiao Qin nodded. He didn't expect things to be like this. It seemed that the Supernatural Investigation Bureau was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. None of them were easy to deal with. But thinking about it carefully, these people were transcendental martial artists or martial artists. How could they be willing to be controlled by others? Well, Xia Shibin, it's good that you have this attitude. Although I can't treat you like a confidant for the time being, you won't be at a disadvantage if you follow me. Xiao Qin said. Okay, thank you, Brother Yang. Xia Shibin smiled and said, Brother Yang, then I will go back first. And you can go back first. Xiao Qin didn't say anything. On this day and the next day, Xiao Qin didn't go out of the room. He was very low-key, but the Wang family didn't come to him. They said that they would give him time to consider, so naturally they wouldn't come to him the next day. In the evening, someone knocked on the door. When Xiao Qin opened the door, it was actually Xia Zhili. He didn't expect him to come in person. This made Xiao Qin feel that this person wasn't so arrogant and aloof. Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, why did you come in person? If there's anything, just let me know. I'll go look for you, Xiao Qin quickly said. It doesn't matter. I'm not an old man. Don't forget I am a 10th layer martial artist. This amount of exercise is nothing. Xia Zhili waved his hand and said, moreover, I also have something important to tell you. Chapter 625. Oh. Xiao Qin was slightly surprised. He immediately closed the door and invited Xia Zhili in. He asked him to sit down and was about to pour tea for him. Don't bother. You can sit down first. Xia Zhili pointed to the seat beside him, indicating that Xiao Qin should not sit down. All right. Xiao Qin looked at Xia Zhili's expression and knew that he had something important to say. He quickly sat down and asked, Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, you were looking for me? It's like this. Recently there has been a mission. However, it is not a mission from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. It is a mission from the Warrior Guild headquarters, Xia Zhili said. Oh, can I participate in this mission? Xiao Qin was slightly surprised after listening and could not help but ask. Of course you can. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau can also accept the missions from the Warrior Guild headquarters. However, the points obtained are counted as points for the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's public account and cannot be owned by individuals. Therefore, there are contributions to the Bureau. However, usually, not many people are willing to accept the mission because there are no benefits. Xia Zhili said. Everyone has to accept the missions that we issue. However, the Warrior Guild's missions can be done at will. In this way, no one is willing to take the initiative to do it. In fact, if the mission is successful, the contribution to the Bureau is greater than other missions. After all, points are also an important way for us to exchange for cultivation resources. So that's how it is. Xiao Qin came to a realization and said, in that case, this mission must be related to the Hakanamata Desert. Yes. Xia Zhili nodded. Your mission this time is to go to the Hakanamata Desert and explore the ruins of the Bubbly Clan's Cultivation City. Bubbly Clan? Cultivation City ruins? Xiao Qin nodded after listening and noted it down. Then what is this mission for? It's like this. The ruins of the Bubbly Clan's Cultivation City. Legend has it that they have a lot of spiritual stones there. As for spirit stones, you also know that they are a type of energy that can be used to power a formation. Although they are not as useful as spirit jades, a large number of spirit stones can be as effective as spirit jades. Xia Zhili said, I don't know if you have heard, but Wulin has been collecting a lot of spiritual jades recently. It seems that they want to open some kind of formation, but they don't have enough spiritual jades in their hands, so they have turned their attention to spiritual stones, and spiritual stones are not so easy to find. The ruins of the cultivation city of Paoli clan have been annihilated for many years. Their clan has migrated to an unknown place, so it is very difficult to find them. Everyone's contribution is related to the number of spiritual stones found. Aren't the spirit stones placed together? Xiao Qin asked curiously. That was true in the past, but it has been so many years. The Earth's crust has shifted, and there are frequent hurricanes in the desert. The spiritual stones have long been scattered to who knows where, so we need everyone to search for them. Otherwise there wouldn't be this mission. Xia Zhili explained. So that's how it is. Xiao Qin understood, but no matter what the mission was, he had to go to the Hakanamada desert, so he accepted it. Okay, I will accept it. When will we leave? Naturally, the sooner the better. I heard that the ruins exploration is about to start. Don't be late. Xia Zhili said. Okay, then I will leave immediately. Xiao Qin made a decision. He also wanted to leave as soon as possible and go to the desert, and he was also concerned about the news of his father. Well, but there is one more thing. Xia Zhili hesitated for a moment and looked at Xiao Qin. Deputy Director Xia, if there is anything else, please let me know. If I can do it, I will definitely help. When Xiao Qin saw Xia Zhili's expression, he knew that he had something to ask of him. It was probably similar to the last time. It was a private matter, and it should be a very important private matter. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such an expression. It's like this. You also know that I have been stuck at the 10th level of the Martial Master realm for many years. I want to advance further, but I don't have suitable cultivation resources, so my progress has been slow. Xia Zhili sighed and said, You can be considered one of my people, so I won't hide anything from you. Although I am disabled, I wholeheartedly pursue martial arts. I want to advance to the next level. Now that I have stepped into the peak of the 10th level of the Martial Master realm, I am only one step away from the Martial General realm. I want to break through, but the current resources of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau are not enough for me to do so. Xiao Qin was shocked. He didn't expect that above the Martial Master realm was the Martial General realm, and Xia Zhili had already begun to break through. This was not easy, but what was the use of saying this to him? It's like this, Jianan, didn't you see the ruins of the Paoli clan? I actually heard of a legend before. Xia Zhili hesitated for a moment but still said, You have heard about this matter. Whether you have it or not, it is best not to spread it, understand? I understand, Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, please speak. Xiao Qin said solemnly. And it's like this. I heard that the Paoli clan is not human but another race. They might be a spirit beast clan or they might be extraterrestrial visitors. Xia Zhili said, In short, there is no way to verify it. It has been thousands of years and they have long moved away. However, I know of a legend. When the Paoli clan settled in the Hakanamada desert, they brought with them something called the extraterrestrial ink meteorite. This thing can help me break through the Martial Master realm and become a Martial General. Of course, this is only a legend. Whether it can be found or not is another matter. When you go, if possible, help me look for it. Oh. Xiao Qin was a little surprised. There is such a thing? However, what does it look like? Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, you told me the name, but I don't know what it is. Naturally, I heard that not only can it help martial cultivators break through the Martial General realm, but it can also help them become the strongest Martial General, so it is quite precious. As for what it looks like, I am not too sure. I heard that it is a black meteorite. Xia Zhili said. Okay, I will pay attention. If there is, I will help you bring it back. Xiao Qin nodded and agreed. And so you accepted this mission? Then I will sign you up in a while. Xia Zhili said, however, you should also think about it. All the points you get in the mission have nothing to do with you personally. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau can only help you count it as a credit, but they will not give you any points. I know it doesn't matter. Xiao Qin said. And also because this kind of mission is quite special, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau will not provide you with travel expenses and material support. You will have to rely on yourself. Xia Zhili said, but I can personally pay for your travel expenses. Then there is no need. Xiao Qin smiled. Xia Zhili would probably only give him a few thousand yuan for the plane ticket, which Xiao Qin had himself. And then I will wait for your good news. After saying that, Xia Zhili stood up and left to help Xiao Qin sign up. What is the extraterrestrial ink meteorite? What Xiao Qin was interested in was this. Could it be that his father had also gone to look for this thing in the past? Xiao Qin knew that as long as it was something helpful to cultivation, Xiao Feng would search for it at all costs. Needless to say, this was very possible. Not long after, Xia Zhili returned. The moment he opened the door, he happily said to Xiao Qin, Okay Jianan, it's done. You can head directly to the border town of Hakanamada Desert, Yu Town. There is a warrior guild branch there. Go there and register, then you can head to the desert for an adventure. Okay. Xiao Qin noted it down, then I will go and book the plane ticket now. No need, I have already booked it for you. Originally you have to pay for the travel expenses yourself, but I have settled it for you. Xia Zhili smiled. You can just go to the airport. Xiaochen nodded and told Song Huawu and Xia Shibin about it. Song Huawu replied, Be careful, I support you. As for Xia Shibin, he wanted to go with Xiaochen. However, Xiaochen rejected him. This trip might be quite difficult and Xiaochen had his own plans. Xia Shibin wanted to go with Xiaochen. For a good thing like the extraterrestrial ink meteorite, if he found it, he could naturally go first. As for Xia Zhili, if there was an extra one, Xiaochen would find one for him. If there wasn't, then he could only apologize. But if Xia Zhili went, it was hard to say. For this kind of thing, the fewer people who knew, the better. Although he had expressed his position in the face of great benefits, it was hard to say whether he could stick to his original heart. After packing up, Xiaochen went to the airport. He didn't want to stay in Tianfang province anymore. The Wang family might come to find him at any time. He had to hurry and take refuge. After a few flights and a few long-distance buses, Xiaochen arrived at the border town of Wuxia town in the Hakanamata Desert. However, this was no longer the territory of the Great Xia Kingdom. This should be the territory of the martial arts circle. Many people here retained the custom of ancient clothes, but there were some modern people. Xiaochen followed the road map that Xia Zhili gave him and didn't stop. He went all the way to Wuxia town's warrior guild. Hello, I am here to sign up for a mission. Xiaochen found a staff member and said to him. There were very few people here. There were no people coming and going like the other city's warrior guild. There were only a few people. There were a few unknown martial artists and 2 or 3 staff members. It was a desolate scene. Mission? How can there be a mission here? Where are you from? The staff member looked at Xiaochen impatiently. I am here to participate in the Spirit Stone exploration mission of the Bubbly Clan Cultivation City ruins in Hakanamata Desert. Xiaochen was stunned and asked curiously. Chapter 626. Oh. The staff member was stunned and looked at Xiaochen strangely. You're a martial master? Why don't you go directly to the martial arts guild at the entrance of the Hakanamata Desert? What are you doing here? We don't do martial master level missions here. I'm from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. My mission should be from here. Xiaochen explained. Oh, you're from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Why didn't you say so earlier? After this person heard it, he said somewhat impatiently, All right, I'll give you a transfer request. You can go directly to the Wulin Martial Guild to complete the procedures. The Martial Master level missions are all issued by the Wulin Martial Guild. We are the secular world's martial guild. All right, thank you. Xiaochen roughly understood. The Martial Arts Guild was divided into the Secular Martial Arts Guild and the Martial Arts Guild. Usually, the Martial Arts Guild referred to was in the secular world. Only in the martial arts world would there be a Martial Arts Guild. This mission is issued by the Secular Martial Arts Guild headquarters. We won't issue it here. If you come to me, we'll transfer it for you. The staff member finished the procedures and passed the transfer form to Xiaochen. Although the staff member's attitude wasn't very good, Xiaochen didn't say anything. There probably weren't many people here all year round. Furthermore, it was close to the martial arts world. The martial arts guild in the secular world didn't have much effect at all. It was normal for the staff here to be in a bad mood. Xiaochen got the transfer form and went to the Hakanamata Desert Martial Arts Guild according to the map at the back. However, it was barren land in front of him. There weren't any long-distance buses. If he walked there, it would indeed be a little strenuous. Xiaochen had no choice but to turn back and ask, Excuse me, is there a car delivery service here? No, there's a car rental. It's 10,000 a day. The staff member said impatiently. Then give me one. Xiaochen was a little speechless. What kind of price was that? It couldn't be a Rolls-Royce, right? A deposit of 1 million. The staff member said. Okay. Xiaochen could only agree. After swiping the card, the staff brought Xiaochen to pick up the car. When Xiaochen saw the car, he was even more speechless. This was a 2020 Jeep that could only be seen in driving schools. This kind of car actually cost 10,000 yuan a day and a deposit of 1 million yuan. The rarer something is, the more expensive it is. However, Xiaochen did not dwell on this. He just drove away. If he had to run around in the desert for a few days, Xiaochen would go crazy. Along the way, Xiaochen followed the directions of the map and the car's navigation system. He came to the front of a building. This building was a bit like an old castle, but when he got closer he could see a few big words written on the top of the building. Hakuna Mata Desert Warrior Guild / Hakuna Mata Desert Teleportation Array and Trance. Xiaochen parked the car in front of the building and got out. This place was not as deserted as the U-Town Warrior Guild. There were many cars parked here, but Xiaochen's car was the most broken. These people obviously came directly from nearby. They were not like Xiaochen, who came back for the first time and rented a car from U-Town. However, no one paid attention to Xiaochen's car. At this level of martial cultivation, they were all martial masters. They would not compete with each other so superficially to show off their wealth. In their eyes, the car was just a tool. Even if it was a bicycle, it was good if it was fast. They competed in strength and other aspects. Even if they laughed at others, they would not laugh at others' cars. In fact, no one even looked at Xiaochen. When Xiaochen walked in, he saw a scene as lively as the Lan City and Songning Warrior Guild. On the big screen there were all kinds of missions. It seemed that there were not only Hakuna Mata Desert exploration missions, but also some other missions. Xiaochen did not need to go near. From afar he could see that there were all kinds of missions, but most of them were related to the desert and its surroundings. There were missions about the Paoli clan, Blazing Mountain, a river in the desert called Green Blood River, and Wainer Valley. There were missions about gathering herbs, hunting spirit beasts, looking for treasures, and so on. Xiaochen was basically not interested in them. He took the transfer book and went straight to the staff here. The staff here was obviously more enthusiastic, comparable to the ones in Lan City and Songning. "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" the staff asked politely. "I transferred here from the Yu Family Town's Warriors Guild. I'm here to do the mission of searching for spirit stones in the ruins of the Baoli clan's cultivation city in the Hakunamata Desert," Xiaochen explained as he handed over the transfer book. "Oh, so it's a young hero from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Please come with me." The staff looked at it and nodded. He brought Xiaochen to an office next door and said, "The mission points are relatively high, but the spirit stones are also valuable. Please pay a deposit of 100 million. If you collect more than 10 spirit stones, you can return the deposit without changing it. If there is one less, 10 million will be deducted. Is that acceptable?" "Oh, I still need to pay such a high deposit?" Xiaochen was stunned. He was a little shocked. Although he had some money, he didn't have 100 million. Moreover, 10 spirit stones. To put it bluntly, it would be good if he could find even one. Yes. In order to prevent people from not handing in the spirit stones they find and keeping them for themselves, this rule was made. Of course, this is a mutual agreement. You can also disagree and you don't need to do this mission, the staff explained. Xiaochen was a little speechless. The mission points were indeed very high, but at the same time, if he couldn't complete it, he might lose a lot of money. Could it be that these martial artists are also rich? Wait a minute. I'll make a call. Xiaochen had no choice but to walk out of the warrior guild and call Xia Zhili. "Jianan, how is it? Have you arrived?" Xia Zhili said on the other side of the phone. "I've arrived, but I've encountered some trouble," Xiaochen said and told Xia Zhili about the deposit. "Oh, there's actually a deposit of 100 million? Xia Zhili was also very surprised after listening. "Jianan, I can't come up with this money in a short time. It's impossible for the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to come up with it because you can't guarantee that you will find the spirit stones. If you can't find it and lose the money, it will be very disadvantageous for you and me. Song Billion may take this opportunity to get mad and drive us out." "I understand. I'll think of a way myself." When Xiaochen heard Xia Zhili's tone, he knew that there was no way. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau would not come up with this money. "I personally have 30 million savings. I can let you use it first," Xia Zhili said. "As for the rest, there's no other way." "Okay, if I need anything, I'll call you again." Xiaochen was stunned. He didn't expect Xia Zhili to be so generous. He actually took out his own money. However, Xia Zhili only saved 30 million, which surprised Xiaochen. He thought that this old man was rich. One had to know that the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's bonus was very high, especially for people like him who were injured before. The compensation they received was also very high. However, thinking about it, most of the money was probably used to buy medicinal herbs for cultivation. Xiaochen thought about it. Who do I have to ask for money from? Little Hongzhu was rich, but he couldn't contact her at the moment. After thinking for a long time, Xiaochen directly called Qing Zhongfan. After thinking about it, he could only blackmail him. Although the Xiao family could take out the money now, it was Xiaochen's own money. He couldn't bear to part with it. However, this Qing Zhongfan was quite rich. "Who is it?" Qing Zhongfan picked up the phone. When he saw this unfamiliar number, he was a little inexplicable. Mr. Qing Zhongfan, hello. I'm Hero White Fox, Xiao Qin said with a smile. What? Qing Zhongfan was stunned. Xiao Qin? Why are you calling me? Oh, I haven't burned your house recently, so my hands are a little itchy. I wonder how Qing Mingqiang is doing? Has he recovered? Do you still want to taste the taste of barbecue? Xiao Qin asked with a smile. Xiao Qin, what do you mean? If you have something to say, just say it. Don't say those useless things. Are you trying to scare me? Qing Zhongfan was furious. Last time, you told the Supernatural Investigation Bureau that I was in Songning, right? Are you planning to catch me? Don't say no. Only your family knows my whereabouts, Xiao Qin said coldly. It really wasn't that time. It was Chao Yuliang who kept it a secret. Qing Zhongfan explained patiently. He had to explain. Xiao Qin was too ruthless and would burn people at the slightest provocation. He didn't have any good countermeasures. He wasn't Taoist Lu Li who could get some fire-resistant clothes with a raise. When facing Xiao Qin he could only be burned. He was too weak to extinguish the fire. Isn't Chao Yuliang your son's subordinate? Do you think I don't know? Xiao Qin asked. This. Qing Zhongfan felt wronged in his heart. It was true that he was Chao Yuliang's subordinate, but it wasn't Qing Mingqiang who asked him to report. However, even if he said this, Xiao Qin probably wouldn't believe it. He had to say, well, we were wrong, but you are fine now, aren't you? I'm fine, but I'm in urgent need of money now. Give me some. Xiao Qin said his purpose. Give me money? How much? Qing Zhongfan knew that Xiao Qin had something to do. Otherwise he wouldn't have said so much before. After the threat was over, the real business came. However, it was also a good choice to spend money to avoid disaster. After all, he couldn't compete with Xiao Qin. If Xiao Qin wanted to secretly mess with him, he couldn't guard against it. 100 million yuan. I'll give you an account. You transfer it to me. Xiao Qin didn't wait for Qing Zhongfan to bargain and said directly, okay, I'm waiting. If I don't get the money in half an hour, I will burn your house. You know me. After that, he hung up the phone. *CK. Qing Zhongfan was furious and almost threw the phone. 100 million yuan? Do you think the Qing family is a bank? Can you take it out just like that? I can really take it out, but that's my private money. Chapter 627. But to be honest, he didn't dare to tell this to his father, Qing Tianxiu. If he told him, then his identity and plan would be exposed. Qing Zhongfan was so angry that he ran directly to Qing Mingqiang's room and roared, "It's all your fault. I knew that Xiao Qin wouldn't let us go so easily. That kid has endured for many years. How can he be easily dismissed with this kind of temperament? Sure enough, something happened, right? Dad, what's wrong? Xiao Qin is here again? Is he going to burn our house?" Qing Mingqiang had been traumatized by Xiao Qin. His injuries hadn't healed yet. He was so scared that he jumped up from the bed. He hasn't come yet, but he asked me for 100 million. If I don't give it to him, he said he's coming. Qing Zhongfan glanced at his son and was very disdainful of his cowardly behavior. However, wasn't he the same when he thought about it? He was angry in his heart. This little bastard, if we were in the sect, I would have killed him long ago. In the secular world, he still dares to shit on my head. What should we do? Do we give it to him? Qing Mingqiang was a little worried. He still remembered the pain of being burned. I don't want to give it, but can we not give it? Qing Zhongfan's voice changed. That guy is hiding in the dark now. He's a madman. He doesn't play by the rules at all. How about we threaten him with the Xiao family? Qing Mingqiang rolled his eyes and suggested. Your suggestion can't be implemented at all. If we touch the Xiao family, he will definitely come back to destroy our Qing family. At worst, we will die together. But we are porcelain. We can't touch him. Qing Zhongfan shook his head. Our Qing family has been working hard for many years to become a true martial arts family. I will eventually return to the sect. The Qing family still has to operate here unless you all give up and come with me. This? Qing Mingqiang was a little hesitant. He really couldn't bear to leave the Qing family. He heard that the sect was full of ascetics. There was no glory, splendor, and wealth. He was greedy for the secular world. All right, I'm just complaining. Just pass it on to him. Qing Zhongfan took a deep breath and waved his hand. I'm going to transfer the money. You don't need to think about it. Yes. Qing Mingqiang heaved a sigh of relief. Spending money to avoid disaster was much better than provoking that lunatic Xiao Qin. Looking at the notification that his account had been transferred, Xiao Qin's lips curled into a smile. Then he turned around and returned to the martial artist attack. Using an anonymous method, he transferred the money to the Martial Artist Guild's account. Alright, since the deposit has been paid, you can head to the Hakuna Mata Desert now. This is your calling token. Remember, whenever you crush the token, you'll be teleported back to the entrance of the teleportation circle. Also, this is the map of the Paoli clan's cultivation city. You can follow the map when the time comes. When the staff saw that Xiao Chen had transferred the money, his attitude became better. He enthusiastically said, "But remember, don't stay in the desert for too long. Although we didn't set a limit for how long you can stay, I still have to remind you of some things in advance." "Please speak," Xiao Chen said with a solemn expression. "The desert is a place where it is easy to get lost. The same environment, the same scenery, the sudden appearance of mirages, and the endless heat will make people lose their minds. If you really get lost, then you will be lost forever. It will be very difficult to wake up." The staff looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Many people covet points. They keep searching in the desert and eventually get lost. There are many people like this. I hope you don't lose your heart." "Thank you, I understand." Xiao Chen nodded and noted it down. However, he was wondering if his father would get lost. But it shouldn't be. His entire team disappeared, not just one person. If one person got lost, then the others should still be there. How could all of them get lost? Xiao Chen shook his head and kept the jade token. Under the guidance of the staff, he arrived at the back of the warrior guild. At the back of the warrior guild, there was a place that looked like a shrine. However, upon closer inspection, it looked more like a strange mechanism. In the middle of the main hall there was a high platform. Under the staff's direction, Xiao Chen went up the platform. "Alright, stand still and don't move. The transmission array is about to be activated." The staff shouted and activated some unknown mechanism. Xiao Chen only saw a white light flash before his eyes. In the blink of an eye, he felt a burst of heat under his feet and a hot wind blew on his face. When he opened his eyes, he saw a barren desert with no end in sight. Xiao Chen knew that he was already inside the Hakanamata Desert. If it weren't for Xia Zhili saying that there might be extraterrestrial ink meteorites here, Xiao Chen wouldn't have come here. 100 million, what could he not do with this money? Moreover, his purpose here was to go to the Flame Mountain, not to the Bubbly clan. Fortunately, the desert was connected. He was only transmitted to the vicinity of the Bubbly clan's cultivation city ruins. As long as he didn't leave the desert, he should be able to reach the Flame Mountain. He didn't intend to go out immediately. Only God knows how much deposit was needed to go to the ancient ruins of the Flame Mountain. He would look for it himself. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't intend to wander around randomly. He didn't know whether this transmission array was a random transmission or a directional transmission. However, no matter what, he had to figure out his position. Xiao Chen took out the GPS and the map given to him by the staff and started comparing them. After looking for a long time, he discovered that his position was on the west side of the Bubbly clan's cultivation city ruins. Putting down the map, Xiao Chen looked around. How come there wasn't a single person here? It stood to reason that there should be a lot of people who would accept such a high-reward mission, right? However, although there were some doubts in his heart, Xiao Chen still moved forward towards the destination indicated on the map. Looking at the desert under his feet and all around him, there was no end in sight. Xiao Chen suddenly felt a bit depressed. Looking for spirit stones in this kind of place, wasn't it more difficult than ascending to the heavens? Now he finally figured it out. No wonder the Warrior Guild had collected 100 million as a deposit in advance. It seemed that they had already planned to scam him. Only a fool like him would spend so much money. Moreover, he had seen a lot of desert-related missions on the big screen. He guessed that only this kind of unaccepted mission would be posted to the Warrior Guild headquarters in the secular world. Then Xia Zhili saw it and asked him to come over. Shaking his head, although that 100 million was not his own money, Xiao Chen still felt very distressed. He had been cheated. If he had known this would happen, he would have just applied for another mission and come over. However, not long after, Xiao Chen quickly became excited because he saw a shiny thing in the desert not far away. Although he did not know what it was, Xiao Chen quickened his pace and walked over. Just as he squatted down, he was stopped by the voice of the Elder Heaven Ancestor. "Don't move," said the Elder Heaven Ancestor. "Oh?" Xiao Chen was taken aback. "Elder Heaven Ancestor, what's wrong? Is there anything wrong with it?" "What's wrong with it?" Elder Heaven Ancestor coldly snorted and said, "If I didn't say it, I'm afraid you would already be dead." "Dead?" Xiao Chen exclaimed in disbelief, his entire body shocked. Do you know what it is? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked. It seems to be a spirit stone? Although Xiao Chen had never seen a spirit stone before, this thing had a white luster and shined under the sunlight. Moreover, as he got closer, he could feel the faint fluctuation of spiritual energy. If this wasn't a spirit stone, then what was it? Xiao Chen did not think that he would be so lucky to see a spirit stone as soon as he came in. You really don't know anything. You didn't do any homework before coming here. Elder Heaven Ancestor said coldly. You watch from the side for a while, don't touch it. I won't say anything for now. Consider it a lesson for you, don't mess around in the future. Ah. Xiao Chen was a little confused, but he still followed the instructions of the Elder Heaven Ancestor and did not touch the spirit stone. Instead, he stood to the side and carefully looked at the spirit stone. However, there was nothing special about this spirit stone. It looked very attractive. However, just when Xiao Chen was bored to death, the spirit stone actually moved. Xiao Chen saw a row of legs and a long tail suddenly grow out of the spirit stone. Then, with a whooshing sound, it crawled forward. What is this thing? The spirit stone can run? Xiao Chen's eyes widened as he looked at this shocking scene. Now you know how powerful it is? Elder Heaven Ancestor's proud voice sounded. This is called the desert parasitic scorpion. It is highly toxic and relies on its bright appearance to confuse other creatures in the desert. Then it will deal a fatal blow. If you get stung by it and get poisoned, I think you will die soon. Xiao Chen looked at the crawling little thing with lingering fear. His heart was aghast, but when he saw the spirit stone, he was not willing to give up. Elder Heaven Ancestor, this thing, other martial cultivators naturally have no way of dealing with it. The desert parasitic scorpion lives in the hot desert and has the protection of the spirit stone. Its shell is hard and its life is hard. Most people have no way of dealing with it. Therefore, most people would not be fooled into touching this spirit stone because it is simply a joke. After finishing, the Elder Heaven Ancestor changed the topic. But the Samadhi true fire is enough to burn this little thing to death. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you scared me to death. Xiao Chen threw out the Samadhi true fire. In an instant, the desert parasitic scorpion was surrounded by the Samadhi true fire. After struggling for a bit, it turned into a wisp of green smoke. The stone also stopped moving. Other than a little black on the surface, it was completely unharmed. Xiao Chen walked over and picked up the spirit stone. After wiping it clean, it was as good as new. Chapter 628. After discovering this benefit, as Xiao Chen moved forward, he actually found a lot of desert hermit scorpions like this. They were all carrying a spirit stone on their backs as camouflage. This made Xiao Chen very happy. He threw out the true Samadhi fire again and again, turning those desert hermit scorpions into green smoke. The spirit stones were also collected by Xiao Chen. In the blink of an eye, the 10 spirit stones task was easily completed. Being a cultivator is still the best. Xiao Chen sighed. If he was a martial master, he would also be helpless. Even a devil master who could use fire-type martial skills would probably be helpless against this kind of thing. This was because, under Xiao Chen's strongest true Samadhi fire, the desert hermit scorpions would still struggle a few times before turning into ashes. After tasting the benefits, Xiao Chen also began to feel happy. Along the way, not only did he complete the task, he also obtained a full 15 spirit stones. However, after obtaining these 15 spirit stones, Xiao Chen did not gain anything else. He estimated that all the desert hermit scorpions in the vicinity had been burned by him. There were only 20 or so of them in the vicinity. Even if there were, he estimated that they would have to go far away to other places. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the desert. He was ready to use the extra 15 spirit stones to cultivate. Although the effect of these things was not as good as the spirit jades, their function should be similar. Otherwise, those people in the martial arts world would not be able to collect spirit jades and spirit stones. Xiao Chen did not want to carry a large pile of stones forward. It was naturally good to be able to use some. He was now a Qi refinement stage cultivator. He did not know whether the outer inky meteorite would be useful for him to break through to the foundation building stage, but these spirit stones were definitely useful. Taking out a spirit stone and holding it in his hand, Xiao Chen began to circulate the Heart Sutra. Rich spiritual qi poured into Xiao Chen's body and turned into primordial qi. However, the speed was not as fast as the spirit jades. It could only be regarded as a barely sufficient supply, but there was no surplus. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaoqian did not feel anything, but the spirit stone in his hand shattered with a kacha sound. So fast. Xiaoqian looked at the broken pieces in his hand and shook his head. This thing was used up too quickly. It wasn't even 1/10 of the effect of the spiritual jade. However, Xiaoqian didn't care and casually threw it to the side. In any case, this thing was free. He took out another spirit stone and continued cultivating. Time passed by in a flash. Xiaoqian didn't know how much time had passed. When he reached into his bag, he discovered that it was empty. It turned out that even the 10 spirit stones left behind for the mission had been taken away by Xiaoqian. The consumption of these things was really huge. Unknowingly, they were all used up. This made Xiaoqian a little depressed. So many spiritual stones, but it still wasn't enough for him to advance to the peak of the 10th level of Qi refinement realm. With a sigh, Xiaoqian stood up and found that it was already the morning of the next day. He cultivated overnight and wasted 25 spiritual stones. If it was converted into the equivalent of credit points, it would be worth 250 million. However, Xiaoqian didn't regret it. He would rather not have that 100 million. It was worth it for him to cultivate. He quickly moved forward. Just as he guessed, there were no more desert hermit scorpions in this area. Therefore, Xiaoqian quickened his pace and continued to move forward. Finally, he saw the vague shadow of an ancient castle in front of him. According to the map, this should be the ruins of the Paoli clan's cultivation city. Next, Xiaoqian didn't disappoint. He once again saw the desert hermit scorpions camouflaged under the spiritual stones. There were a lot of desert hermit scorpions here. Xiaoqian was very happy. He began to burn them like crazy. Then he collected all the spiritual stones. After circling around the castle, Xiaoqian collected 54 spiritual stones. This made him very happy. It seems like these spiritual stones must have been under the desert before. After they were discovered by the desert hermit scorpions, they came out to deceive people. If Xiaoqian were to search aimlessly in the desert, he would definitely die of exhaustion. It was no wonder that no one accepted this quest. This was a scam. Xiaoqian didn't believe that there would be any spiritual stones in the ruins of the Paoli clan's cultivation city. He reckoned that the spiritual stones on the surface had already been found. Therefore, it wouldn't be Xiaoqian's turn to study the desert hermit scorpions. After looking around for a while, Xiaoqian determined that there wouldn't be any desert hermit scorpions in the vicinity for a while. Then he found a place to sit down and continue cultivating. Of course, if he went in another direction, he would definitely encounter some desert hermit scorpions. However, Xiaoqian already had more than 50 spiritual stones on his back. He didn't want to go too far. In any case, he would just look for more spiritual stones when he ran out. This time, Xiaoqian placed 10 spiritual stones on one side of his backpack and the rest on the other side. Then he began to cultivate. Time passed unconsciously as Xiaoqian cultivated. When there were only 3 spiritual stones left beside Xiaoqian's hand, Xiaoqian touched the barrier of the peak of the 10th layer of Qi refining that he hadn't felt in a long time. Sure enough, it was useful. Xiaoqian clenched his teeth and began to speed up his cultivation. The last 3 spiritual stones turned into powder in Xiaoqian's hand. However, Xiaoqian was just a step away from breaking through. He reached into his backpack and found that there were no more spiritual stones. Xiaoqian was unwilling to give up, so he took a spiritual stone that was left on the side and held it in his hand as he continued to cultivate. 1 spiritual stone, 2 spiritual stones, 3 spiritual stones. Finally, on the 4th spiritual stone, Xiaoqian broke through the barrier and finally stepped into the peak of the 10th Qi refinement realm. Hu! Xiaoqian let out a long breath as he circulated his heart sutra to stabilize his realm. Then he stood up. Now that he had 6 spiritual stones left, it wasn't a loss. At that time, he could refund the 60 million deposit and the Supernatural Investigation Bureau could also obtain 60 million equivalent points. If he calculated everything, he would still have earned 20 million. Although these points didn't belong to Xiaoqian, the 100 million from before wasn't paid by Xiaoqian. What's more, Xiaoqian could still continue to search. Sure enough, after Xiaoqian walked for a while, he once again found a group of desert parasitic scorpions. Just like the last time, from afar there was a flash of light. There might be a dozen or so of them. Xiaoqian didn't stop and directly began to collect them. After a while, he had collected 5 or 6 spiritual stones. However, he also stopped because he saw a few people walking over from afar. Xiaoqian's 6 senses were very sharp. He could feel that someone was coming from such a distance, but the people who came did not have this ability. They only saw Xiaoqian when they were very close. At this moment, Xiaoqian had already collected the spiritual stones. He was sitting on the ground with his legs crossed and studying the map, just like an ordinary trial tester. There were a total of 4 people, 2 men and 2 women. Xiaochen glanced at them from afar and put away the map. His action was very natural and did not arouse the suspicion of the 4 people. "Brother Sun, there is a trial tester in front," one of the men said to the other man. The man called Brother Sun nodded and said to the other man, "And little Xiao, go and ask him what his strength is and if he is willing to travel together." "Okay, Brother Sun." Little Xiao nodded and quickly walked towards Xiaochen. He cupped his fists and asked, "Young hero, may I ask what mission you are doing?" "I did accept a mission to find spiritual stones, but—" Xiaochen didn't finish his sentence. He deliberately paused to give people some room to imagine. Sure enough, when little Xiao heard this, he was stunned and immediately said, "Is it the 100 million security deposit mission?" "That's right." Xiaochen smiled bitterly and nodded. "It seems that young hero is not a cultivator from around here. You must have been scammed by someone, right?" How can spiritual stones be so easy to find? You should also be able to see that in this desert, those flashing lights in the distance are spiritual stones. However, there are desert parasitic scorpions hidden underneath them. They are a very difficult desert creature to deal with. They are very aggressive and poisonous. The spiritual stones can be seen but not touched. Little Xiao smiled and said, "Young hero, you are a cautious person. You should have noticed that something was wrong and didn't make a move, right?" Xiaochen smiled and did not deny it. He said, "What mission are you guys doing?" "Our mission is to find a medicinal herb. Actually, this is just an excuse. Our real goal is to go to Dao Comprehension Sand Valley." Little Xiao did not hide anything and said directly, "Young hero, you should know about this, right?" Dao Comprehension Sand Valley? Xiaochen was slightly stunned. He had never heard of it before. Seeing Xiaochen's stunned expression, little Xiao was also stunned. Did this guy really not know about it? He saw that Xiaochen's expression did not seem to be fake. After some thought, he suddenly said, "Young hero, if you were scammed by the spiritual stone search mission, then you must not be a cultivator from around here. It's normal that you don't know about it." Xiaochen nodded and said, "Indeed, I'm not from around here." At this moment, the one called Brother Sun and the 2 female cultivators also walked over. He did not know whether they were martial cultivators or devil cultivators. However, based on their temperament, Xiaochen could tell that they were martial masters. "Little Xiao, how is it? Does he also want to go to Dao Comprehension Sand Valley?" Brother Sun asked. "Brother Sun, it's like this." Little Xiao explained Xiaochen's situation to Brother Sun and said, "He still doesn't know about Dao Comprehension Sand Valley. Moreover, it's obvious that he was scammed by the spiritual stone mission. Although the reward for that mission is generous, he still needs to get his hands on it." "Oh, in this direction I thought it was a fellow cultivator." Brother Sun shook his head in disappointment. However, he suddenly thought of something and said, "I wonder if young hero has already found the spiritual stones?" Xiaochen's heart trembled and his expression slightly changed. He did not know why this person suddenly asked this question. Did they want to rob him of his spiritual stones? Although the 4 people in front of him might be martial artists, Xiaochen was not a pushover. He was now a cultivator at the peak of the 10th layer of the refinement stage. Even if he could not kill them, it would not be a problem for him to defeat a few of them and escape. Seeing the change in Xiaochen's expression, Brother Sun hurriedly explained, "Young hero, please don't misunderstand. We are not trying to rob you of your spiritual stones." Chapter 629. Yeah, you can ask around. Our son bro, Maoguang, is a famous figure in this generation. He often participates in trials. He asked this because he wanted to ask you if you're interested in going to the Dao Comprehension Sand Valley with us. Little Xiao was also by the side and hurriedly explained. "Oh, first I want to know what kind of place this Sand Valley is and what it does. Also, what does joining you have to do with going to the Sand Valley and Spirit Stones?" Xiaochen asked without batting an eyelid. The Sand Valley of Enlightenment is a place to understand the heavenly Tao. We practice martial arts, and in the martial world, both martial and demonic, we all want to achieve greater strength. I heard that there's a very profound martial technique there, and if you master it, you'll be able to fight opponents of a higher level, easily killing opponents of the same level. As Brother Sun spoke, an envious look appeared on his face. It was obvious that he really wanted this martial skill. "What does it have to do with spirit stones?" Xiaochen asked. He wasn't that excited about the martial technique. After all, he was a cultivator and could already fight opponents of a higher level. If he had a powerful martial technique, however, he'd be able to unleash a greater effect. He wasn't disappointed even if he didn't have it. There's a formation to the Sand Valley of Enlightenment, and in order to activate it, you'll need to place 10 spirit stones in. Sun Bro said, if you have spirit stones, you can join us. So you're saying that if you bring me there, I'll have to fork out 50 spirit stones? Xiao Chen's expression was a bit strange. You think I have 50 spirit stones? Even if Xiao Chen did have it before, he didn't have it now. But did he look like he was rich? That's not it. You only need to take out 2 spirit stones. Knowing that Xiao Chen was an outsider, Sun Bro wasn't too surprised. He only explained, the formation can only allow 5 people to pass through at most once. If you go, you'll be able to share 2 spirit stones, but if you don't go, then the 4 of us will have to share it. So that's how it is. Spirit stones also have this kind of effect. Xiao Chen nodded his head and said, then what are the benefits if I join? When Brother Sun heard what Xiao Chen said, he knew that Xiao Chen definitely had 2 spirit stones. Otherwise he would not have asked so much. He was immediately overjoyed and said, as for the benefits, it all depends on one's own luck. I heard that this Tao Comprehension Sand Valley is a place where ancient almighty beings practice their martial techniques. When we go there, we will also be comprehending the heavenly Tao there and comprehend this martial technique. This will depend on one's comprehension ability. If you can comprehend it, then it's yours. If you can't, then don't blame others. There's such a thing? After Xiao Chen heard this, he couldn't help but be very surprised. It was the first time he heard that one could learn martial skills from comprehension. However, in ancient times, he heard that there were many powerful people who could obtain the inheritance of martial skills just by practicing in a place. It was not impossible. But, are you sure this is true? Xiao Chen did not suspect that Brother Sun had other motives. What he suspected was whether this matter was true or not. If Brother Sun coveted the spirit stones on him, he would have already taken action. There was no need to speak so much nonsense to deceive him and lure him to this Tao Comprehension Sand Valley. Of course it's true. This is not a secret. In the past 1 or 2 years, the matter of this Tao Comprehension Sand Valley has already spread. Brother Sun smiled and said, when you entered the Hakanamata Desert, didn't the deacon of the warrior guild tell you to quickly return after completing the mission? Don't stay in the desert, it's easy to get lost? That's true. Xiao Chen thought in his heart. Could it be that there was some connection between the two? Indeed, Brother Sun chuckled, that was a lie. Actually, they were afraid that you would give up on the mission and not return after going to the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley. Not return? Then they don't have to return the 100 million to me. What loss do they have? Xiao Chen was stunned. That 100 million is the security deposit. If you don't go out, this money will be frozen and they can't use it. Brother Sun said, the main problem is that many cultivators come to the Hakanamata Desert to go to the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley. They don't really want to complete the mission. This causes these people in the desert to constantly look for other people to form a team with. Those cultivators who really want to complete the mission are also lured away. Then who else would come to complete the mission? Of course, the warrior guild doesn't want this to happen. That's why they lied to you that it's easy to get lost in the desert. They told you to quickly finish the mission and return. That means to say many people have already obtained the martial technique? Then after we go, what's left? Xiao Chen could not help but ask. After those people went, they never returned. I heard that they were trying to comprehend the martial technique in the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley. Since they couldn't comprehend it, I don't think anyone is willing to leave that place, right? Brother Sun said, that's an ancient martial technique. Just hearing about it makes one's blood boil. If I were to obtain it then? Oh. Xiao Chen's heart sank. He was a cultivator. He had no interest in such a martial technique. It was hard for him to imagine that a martial technique could make people so crazy. He didn't believe that Brother Sun was a fool and couldn't tell that there was a problem. Those people who went to the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley actually didn't return. There must be a problem here. However, he probably didn't want to think about it. Even if he knew, he would only be deceiving himself. Because the temptation of an ancient martial technique was too strong. Actually, this was in accordance with the saying, you are not a fish, how can you know the joy of a fish? Xiao Chen wasn't a cultivator. Moreover, he could fight opponents who were of a higher level than him. Therefore, he didn't have any passion for that ancient martial technique. So many people went, but none of them comprehended it? Don't you think that this is strange? Xiao Chen asked in a deep voice. Strange? It's not really strange. You said that no one came out. I'm afraid that even if you and I comprehended it, would we say it out loud? Definitely not, right? He would only use it during a crucial battle. At that time, he wouldn't admit that he had comprehended the martial technique here. Instead, he would use other methods to cover it up. Otherwise, someone would definitely look for him. Brother Sun didn't think much of it. Or perhaps, those who knew about it are already dead. If it were me, I would also keep quiet and make a fortune. Who would tell others? That's right, young hero. Look at how foolish you are. You were tricked into doing this Spirit Stone search mission for 100 million. I don't think you have any ulterior motives. There's no harm in telling you that the matter of this martial skill is very reliable. According to many sources of research, this place is indeed the remains of an ancient martial arts practice. Little Xiao, who was at the side, interrupted. Xiaoqin didn't want to go at first, but his heart was moved. Brother Sun and Little Xiao had said so much, but Xiaoqin wasn't moved at all. There was only one key point that attracted him, and that was that no one who went to Dao Comprehension Sand Valley came out. Then, did his father and his team go to this place? It wasn't common for an entire team to disappear. Usually, these trial missions didn't take them to unfamiliar places, but places where many trial takers had practiced. Even if they encountered danger, it would only be one or two people. So, Xiaoqin thought that his father might have gone there. Seeing Brother Sun and Little Xiao's passion, Xiaoqin underestimated the attraction of ancient martial techniques to martial cultivators. Then, his father and the others might not be spared. Alright, since there's such a powerful technique, of course I'll go. Xiaoqin slapped his thigh with anticipation and excitement. Then I won't hand in my spirit stones. Let's go to Dao Comprehension Sand Valley. You're straightforward, young hero. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sun Maoguang, the leader of this team. This is my Dao partner Mei Xiaoyan. Brother Sun introduced. The other two are my friends Xiao Xiaobai and his Dao partner Hao Tong Tong. We're both first and second stage martial cultivators. What about you, young hero? I'm Xiao Chong, a first stage demon master, Xiaoqin said. That ancient martial technique wouldn't be useless for us demon cultivators, would it? So you're a demon cultivator. Sun Maoguang nodded and smiled. Of course not. That ancient martial technique relies on comprehension and mastery, merging it into your original technique and making it suit you. It's not an unchanging technique. Is that amazing? Xiaoqin said, surprised. That's right. Otherwise, I'd say that someone must have already learned the technique and mastered it, but because it's based on the person's situation, even two people who learned it at the same time might not know each other when they fight, Maoguang explained. It's an ancient martial technique after all, so it has to have its own uniqueness. That's great, I'll go. Xiaoqin was very excited, but he actually wanted to know where his father was. If that's the case, let's go together. Maoguang was very happy to be able to save 2 spirit stones. Spirit stones weren't cheap, otherwise the warrior guild wouldn't be able to put up a bounty. Only the martial artists in the secular world did not know the value of spirit stones and spirit jades. However, the people in the martial arts world already knew that these things were a kind of energy stone used to activate formations. They were in high demand. Maoguang had a map, so Xiaoqin followed him. They saw quite a few desert hermit scorpions along the way, but Xiaoqin didn't make a move. The samadhi fire was too strange and he didn't want to show it in front of these people. This Sun Maoguang had evidently done missions in Hakuna Mata often, and was very familiar with the paths in the desert. He could walk for a long time with just one look as if he was on a familiar road. However, this also confirmed his words. He was a famous adventurer in this area. But if that was the case, Xiaoqin was a little doubtful. After some hesitation, he couldn't help but ask, Brother Sun, forgive me for being blunt, but you're a famous participant in this area, so why didn't you go to that Sand Valley of Enlightenment earlier? Chapter 630. Ha, that's what you're asking? Maoguang laughed. You're still suspecting me of lying to you? But I can tell you that I knew about this a long time ago, but I didn't have any spirit stones. The 4 of us are in the same team and we usually advance and retreat together. It wasn't easy for us to gather 10 spirit stones, so we only managed to gather them a few days ago. That's why it took a few days to collect all of them. It also cost a lot. Now Wallin is also buying spirit stones. Spirit stones are priceless. The reason why we let you join us is that we want to save 2 spirit stones, which is also a lot of money. Xiaoqin came to a realization after hearing that. It was easy for him to obtain spirit stones, but the same could not be said for others. Those desert parasitic scorpions could not be touched at all. Once they were provoked, there would be endless trouble and they might even lose their lives. They could only rely on themselves to search for spirit stones buried in the desert, and that was a difficult task. It was already quite a feat for Mao Guang to gather 10 of them. That's right, I got these spirit stones by chance and they're indeed hard to find. Xiaoqin nodded. The 5 of them walked together and Xiaoqin followed behind them. They didn't run into anything on the way, save for the occasional cultivator or two, but they were all in a hurry and had their own business to attend to. Mao Guang, on the other hand, had already found a partner in Xiaoqin, so naturally he wouldn't look for anyone else. After a day and night of traveling, the 5 of them arrived at a naturally formed valley. Xiaoqin couldn't help but sigh at the miraculousness of nature. There was actually a desert valley here, and the nearby desert didn't fall in and fill it up. This is Enlightenment Sand Valley. I heard that in the ancient times, someone with great godlike powers carved out a training ground with a long blade. Mao Guang's words were directed at Xiaoqin, because everyone else already knew about Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley. Only he didn't. Oh, it's actually man-made? Xiaoqin was a bit surprised. He'd thought that it was naturally formed. Just how powerful would it take to create something like this? It simply had the power to split the mountains and split the seas. Yeah, this technique is amazing. If we can learn a thing or two from it, we'll become the cream of the crop in the martial world. Mao Guang's eyes were bright. He was excited to be here. Then how do we get in? This valley, it can't be that we're jumping down, right? Xiaoqin looked at the endless valley of sand. He seemed to feel that there was something in the valley calling out to him. It was fascinating. Just follow me. Mao Guang smiled as he took out a map and started walking along the edge of the valley. Finally, they saw something that looked like an altar not too far away. Mao Guang pointed. Do you see that? That's it, that's the Sand Valley's teleportation array. If you don't know and recklessly jump into the Sand Valley, you will definitely die. This altar seemed to be very ancient. However, there was no sand on it. Its surface was very smooth. I'm going to activate the formation now. Please follow my instructions and stand at the 5 corners of the formation. Then take out your spirit stones and place them in the holes in front of the corners. Mao Guang said. Like the others, Xiaoqin chose a corner and stood on it. Then he took out 2 spirit stones and placed them into a small round hole in front of his feet. 2 crisp click sounds rang out. After doing all of this, Xiaoqin could vaguely feel a ripple of energy coming from the altar. Mao Guang called out, "The formation is about to activate. Everyone don't move. Stand still and don't leave the corners or you won't be teleported in." Xiaoqin took a deep breath. He had an ominous premonition in his heart. It was as though he wouldn't be able to come out once he entered. However, in order to find out whether his father was here or not, Xiaoqin could only brace himself and enter. All of a sudden, a white light flashed across the formation, and Xiaoqin and the others' vision went black. With another flash of light, they were in a different place. But what surprised Xiaoqin was the fact that he was in a long valley of sand. He couldn't see the sky. It was all gray above and he couldn't see the sun, moon, or stars. All he could see was some faint light and he didn't know what it was. As expected, this wasn't an area that could be reached just by jumping off the edge of Sand Valley. This was a new, unknown place. Xiaoqin took a deep breath and turned around. Mao Guang and the others were looking around curiously as well, but they couldn't tell what was going on. "This is Sand Valley?" Xiaoqin asked uncertainly. "How come there's no one here? Shouldn't there be a lot of people here?" As he said this, Xiaoqin's heart sank. Had he been tricked by this Mao Guang? But looking at him now, he was confused as well. Could it be that he was thinking too much? "It's my first time here as well." Mao Guang started to panic after hearing Xiaoqin's question. "This place? What's going on? Why isn't there anyone here?" When Xiaoqin heard this, he was a little speechless. It turned out that this guy didn't know either. Looking at him earlier, he thought he knew a lot. But there was indeed a strange area here and Xiaoqin wanted to explore it. He wasn't in a rush and instead he looked into the distance quietly. His senses were sharp and he hoped to see something. However, it was a pity that even though Xiaoqin was a cultivator, he could not see into the distance. The light here was dim and everything in front of him was gray. Xiaoqin's divine sense was also in vain, as if there was something blocking it. Mao Guang's uncertainty made Xiao Xiaobai and the others a little panicky. They'd thought that there would be a lot of people here studying techniques together, but there was no one else other than them. Wasn't this a little too strange? "Let's walk around?" Mao Guang suggested after a pause. "Oh, this place is so weird. Sunbro, will there be trouble if we just walk around?" Maybe we should just go out, I don't want to study anymore. His passion from before was gone, and Xiao Xiaobai was backing off. Go out? Mao Guang smiled bitterly. It's easy to get in, but I don't know how to get out. Then even if we learn the techniques we can't get out? Xiao Xiaobai said worriedly. I thought there would be a lot of people here and we'd know everything if we asked them, but… Mao Guang didn't know what to do. There's no point in not going. Who knows, we might find something if we walk around. Xiao Qin had calmed down by now. The spiritual qi here was quite abundant, and it should be a good place. It wouldn't be as fast as cultivating with spirit stones, but it'd be much faster than outside. Places like this usually had treasures of some sort, just like the ancient ruins. Logically speaking, if they could get in, they should be able to get out. Even if he couldn't, there was still the Elder Heaven Ancestor. You're right, let's just walk around. Mao Guang agreed. Xiao Xiaobai had no choice but to follow along, choosing a direction and walking forward. Time passed quickly. Xiao Qin and the others had already been walking in this quiet, empty and uninhabited sand valley for 3 hours. Apart from the yellow sand, there was nothing else around them. They were far away and they couldn't see the end. This kind of repeated scene was the easiest to panic. Xiao Xiaobai's face was pale. Sun Bro, Master Xiao. Are we going the right way? We have to keep going. What difference does it make? Xiao Qin said faintly as he looked at him. In the boundless sand valley, there were no paths on either side. There were no other paths except to go forward or backward. What else could they do but go forward? Sigh. Xiao Xiaobai sighed. If there's no end, will we all die here one day? Xiao Qin didn't reply because he didn't know if that was a possibility. But at least there was some hope and he had to keep going. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. After 10 days, even Xiao Qin wasn't feeling confident anymore. Were they going the right way? Could this sand valley be a circular cycle? Were they just going around in circles? At the thought of this, Xiao Qin wanted to use his hand to make a mark on both sides of the sand valley. However, to his disappointment, although the sand on both sides did not fall, no matter what Xiao Qin made, it would be covered by the quicksand in the next moment and return to its original state. There were no marks left under their feet either. Their footprints would be covered up by the quicksand the moment they stepped on them. It was an unchanging pattern. Now, even if there was a giant circle, they wouldn't be able to feel it. Xiao Qin's heart sank, feeling like something wasn't right. This place was too strange, and no matter how big it was impossible to not even see a feather after walking for so long. According to Mao Guang, many cultivators had been here before, so where did they go? What did they leave behind? At that thought, Xiao Qin took off a foot from his shirt and threw it on the ground, wanting to make a mark. But something even stranger happened. The corner of his shirt sank into the quicksand and disappeared, like a ginseng fruit falling to the ground. There was no sound, as if it had never been there. At this point, everyone was starting to panic. Xiao Qin had tried to leave a mark, and they all understood how strange the situation was. Even Mao Guang was hesitating. I think we might be going in circles in Dune Valley. We can't see too far in the fog and we can't tell if we're going straight or not. Chapter 631. Xiao Xiaobai and Hao Tongtong were holding hands, panicking. Mao Guang's partner was also holding Mao Guang's hand, not knowing what to do. Someone's here. Xiao Qin was practically shouting this. Just as everyone was starting to lose hope, his sixth sense discovered a cultivator. He didn't know how strong this person was, but this was great news. Xiao Qin was so happy that even his tone changed a little. Mao Guang and the other 3 tried their best to look ahead, but they didn't see anything. Master Xiao, are you hallucinating? Mao Guang sighed, disappointed. As soon as he said this, Xiao Xiaobai jumped up excitedly. There's someone here. That's right, there's someone here. This is great. Mao Guang paused and turned his head, and as expected, there was a figure walking over from afar. This made him very happy, and before the cultivator even got close, he was already calling out excitedly, "Friend, are you here to learn martial arts? Is there anyone else here?" The person paused when he saw Xiao Chen's group but nodded. "That's right, what is it?" "I'd like to ask, how do I learn martial arts here? May I ask where you're going, friend? Why don't we go together?" Mao Guang said quickly. "Behind you." The man pointed behind him and said, "There's no need, I'm leaving this place." With that, he didn't linger, walking past Xiao Chen as if in a hurry to go somewhere. "Friend, can you stay for a moment? Can you tell us what's going on here? Is there anyone else? You're leaving?" "Oh, Mao Guang asked a bunch of questions. The person seemed to be getting impatient and pointed behind him again. Everything you need to know is at the back. I don't have time for you right now, I'm going to test out my martial arts. After saying that, he quickly left without looking back. Xiao Chen looked at the man's back as he left. He was slightly puzzled. From the man's dirty and tattered clothes, he could tell that he had been here for a long time. It was impossible for him to have just arrived. His hair and beard were very long. It was obvious that he hadn't trimmed them for a long time. This meant that this person had been here for a period of time, and he was rushing to the other side, saying that he wanted to leave and verify something. Could it be that the other side was the exit? However, what this person said and what he wanted to know were all in the back, which was the direction they were heading in. Could it be that there were really answers there? Xiao Xiaobai hesitated. Let's go this way. Since he came this way, there must be something there. We can't give up. Mao Guang saw them and suddenly regained his confidence. Everyone keep it up. Xiao Chen nodded. He also wanted to see what was going on. Although that person looked impatient, he didn't seem to be lying. All right. Xiao Xiaobai saw that Xiao Chen had agreed, and so he brought his partner along with them. Mao Guang was in high spirits now and he didn't feel bored at all. They walked for another 3 days and finally they could vaguely see a group of people in front of them. There are people and more than one. This is great. That friend didn't lie to us. There are people here. Mao Guang cried out excitedly. Xiao Xiaobai's heart skipped a beat, and he let out a sigh of relief. He pulled his partner forward quickly and Xiao Chen on the other hand was a little excited. Would his father be among these people? As the 5 of them approached, they could see that the end of the sand valley was not far away. At the end there was a cliff blocking their way. It seemed that this wasn't some great circulation, but that this sand valley was just that long. On top of the cliff was a crack that descended from the heavens. They didn't know how tall the cliff was, but it pierced straight into the misty sky. The crack was also from top to bottom, so they couldn't see how high it was. There were many people sitting cross-legged in front of the cliff. Some had their eyes closed in contemplation, some had their brows furrowed, some were happy and some were yelling. Who knew what they were doing? There were also some people on the 2 sides of the sand valley not far away. They were continuously executing martial techniques at the sand valley. There were all sorts of martial techniques. However, it was unknown what they were attacking. The sand valley's walls caved in from the attacks, but it was immediately filled up by the sand and returned to its original state. These people, what are they doing? Xiao Xiaobai asked, confused. Excuse me, what are you guys doing? Mao Guang cupped his fist. But no one paid attention to him. Everyone was busy with their own things and no one even looked at them. Xiao Chen looked at them and frowned. They're probably learning techniques, but they're too focused, or maybe they don't want to talk to us at all. Oh. Mao Guang's eyes lit up and he nodded in agreement. Indeed, judging from their expressions, they're probably practicing martial arts. Those people who are using techniques must have learned something, and they're testing it out on the side. At that moment, one of the people sitting cross-legged on the ground suddenly laughed and stood up, going to the side to practice. Mao Guang quickly walked up and cupped his fist. Brother, may I ask if you've learned the technique? Indeed, I was just about to test it out. The person paused, not expecting someone to talk to him, but he nodded anyway. Then can you tell me what's going on here? How do I learn it? Mao Guang asked. I don't have time, I'm going to test it out. Get out of the way. The person said impatiently, as if he was going to use the technique the next moment. Brother, you should at least drink some water or eat something. I have some rations in my backpack, do you want some? Mao Guang said. Eat my ass. Get out of the way or I won't go easy on you. The person's aura changed, revealing that he was a 4th-stage martial practitioner. This gave Mao Guang a fright and he quickly got out of the way. Seeing that Mao Guang knew his place, the person nodded and said, sit there and meditate. Try to communicate with the martial intent of Dune Valley. Then he started to use his martial skills on the walls of the sand valley. Ping ping pang pang. But Mao Guang's next sentence made Xiao Chen think of something. We haven't eaten anything in the past few days? Mao Guang paused. Indeed, they hadn't eaten anything since entering Dune Valley. They'd even eaten some rations when they were outside, and now that they'd been here for more than 10 days, they hadn't had a single drop of water. But they didn't feel anything wrong. Everyone was nervous here, and since it wasn't night, they were counting time on their watches, so they didn't think about eating. They didn't even feel sleepy. This Dune Valley is weird. We don't feel tired or sleepy and we don't feel hungry. I think the energy here is keeping us alive, Xiao Qin said. He was a cultivator, and it was fine even if he didn't eat for a few days. Mao Guang, on the other hand, was a martial practitioner, and he was fine as well. Plus, the martial practitioner had said that there was no need to eat here. This really is a great place. Mao Guang sighed. Let's give it a try. With that, Mao Guang sat down cross-legged impatiently and closed his eyes, starting to comprehend the Tao. The others did the same, imitating him. Xiao Qin wasn't in a rush. He was here to find his father, Xiao Feng, so he started looking for him among the cultivators. There were a lot of cultivators here. As far as the eye could see, there were at least a few hundred of them. Xiao Qin had to spend a lot of effort to find them one by one. However, everyone was busy comprehending the Tao and practicing their martial skills. No one paid any attention to Xiao Qin. Who cared if he was walking back and forth? Finally, Xiao Qin looked through all of them but didn't see his father anywhere. This made him a little disappointed. It seemed like his father wasn't here, but he might have already left. After all, hadn't the cultivator he'd met earlier said that he was going out? It seemed like the other side of Dune Valley was where they left. With that thought, Xiao Qin wasn't in a hurry. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Since there were so many martial and demonic cultivators here, all of them meditating, it meant that this place wasn't just a rumor. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people here. Thinking up to this point, Xiao Qin found a corner, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate. In truth, he did not know how he was supposed to comprehend it. He could only imitate the way others did. After closing his eyes, his mind became clear. At first, Xiao Qin couldn't feel anything at all, he just felt a little drowsy, but he couldn't fall asleep. He didn't know what kind of energy existed here, but as long as he was in Dune Valley, he wouldn't feel tired. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Suddenly, a faintly discernible feeling seemed to circulate around Xiao Qin's mind. He quickly caught hold of this feeling. It seemed to be an aura from ancient times. Although he closed his eyes, in his mind he could see the crack on the cliff, and that aura seemed to come from the crack. Xiao Qin had already guessed that this aura should be the martial intent that the cultivator had mentioned before. He actually succeeded. Xiao Qin was pleasantly surprised because he saw that many people nearby didn't feel anything. After a period of time, they would open their eyes, scratch their ears and cheeks, or get up and change places to continue. These people obviously didn't comprehend anything, otherwise they wouldn't be like this. Chapter 632. What kind of cultivator would stand up midway and change places? Xiao Qin didn't think that he would be so lucky. Perhaps it was because he was a true cultivator that he had only used a few days of effort to feel the martial intent. Feeling this hazy martial intent, Xiao Qin unconsciously began to imagine a scene in his mind. There was a person holding a long saber in his hand, constantly practicing something in the Sand Valley. And as this person appeared, the martial intent became increasingly clear, making Xiao Qin feel as if he was immersed in it. Subconsciously, Xiao Qin seemed to have entered the picture formed by the aura of the martial intent. He looked at the person and slowly approached him. Before he had even taken a few steps, he felt a fierce murderous aura. So strong. Xiao Qin was still far away from the person, but he was already startled. What a powerful martial skill this was. It was as if this fierce murderous aura would immediately bounce him away. The saber swept out, and the murderous aura was like the saber had turned into a substance, sweeping across Xiao Qin's body. Xiao Qin felt as if his entire body was being torn apart, and the clothes on his body were also riddled with holes. He subconsciously took 2 steps back and the second saber followed. He felt several more scars appear all over his body. Was this a world of thoughts or did it really exist? Xiao Qin took a deep breath and retreated again, not daring to take even half a step closer. Because Xiao Qin was far away, the murderous aura had dissipated. He stared intently at the figure not too far away. In the Sand Valley, the figure was wielding the long saber back and forth. The saber shadows crisscrossed, and the sides of the nearby Sand Valley became uneven. Although it quickly recovered, the damage caused by the martial skill was far greater than Xiao Qin's. His saber could completely sink the side of the Sand Valley. Although it was only for a short period of time, and then it would quickly recover. But this was a characteristic of the Sand Valley. But from the depth of the depression, one could see that the strength of this saber was by no means ordinary. While Xiao Qin was secretly amazed, the figure's movements suddenly changed. From the original ordinary practice, it seemed like he was about to start activating a big move. The The figure suddenly leaped up and then swiftly slashed out with his saber. In an instant, it brought about thousands upon thousands of saber shadows that flickered with silver light. It was a dazzling sight, and the killing intent produced by this saber instantly caused Xiaoqin to feel as if he couldn't breathe. He subconsciously took another 2 steps back. Amazing. Xiaoqin was shocked. He was so far away, but he was still affected by the killing intent of this move. How fierce was this? To be able to cause damage to the enemy from such a distance, just how powerful was this move? One move after another. Once this move was activated, the next move would be ready. The figure began to incessantly activate his big move. A terrifying murderous aura surged over like a tidal wave. Xiaoqin's scalp went numb. He only felt that if he were to face this mighty figure, he would be captured without putting up a fight. He wouldn't even have the chance to attack before he would be cleaved into 2 by this person's saber. Xiaoqin felt that the murderous aura produced by this saber shadow could practically tear the entire Dao Comprehension Sand Valley to pieces. Perhaps this Dao Comprehension Sand Valley had been carved out by this figure's saber? Only such a capable person could possess such immense strength. However, gradually Xiaoqin's mind was no longer filled with murderous aura. Instead, he began to form a connection with the figure. Slowly, he could see the saber shadow's traces clearly. He subconsciously began to follow the figure and activating the dark flame palm, imitating the figure. When the figure slashed out with his saber, Xiaoqin would strike out with his palm. At the beginning, the power of Xiaoqin's martial technique was only ordinary. It could only leave a small hole on the side walls of the Sand Valley. However, gradually, the hole became bigger and bigger. Xiaoqin couldn't help but be overjoyed. This meant that his martial technique was improving. Could it be that he had really comprehended something from this? However, he had a vague feeling that there was something strange about this. This was because the dark flame palm was still the same dark flame palm. The circulation method had not changed, and the method of activation had not changed either. Could such a huge change be achieved just by following the figure's execution? At this moment, the figure suddenly leaped up. It looked like he was about to activate an even more powerful big move. Xiaoqin was shocked. He hurriedly watched carefully without blinking. He saw the figure rise into the air and quickly turn around in the air. Suddenly he attacked. It was a saber slash at Xiaoqin. Although the 2 of them were quite a distance apart, Xiaoqin felt intense pain all over his body at this moment. The overwhelming shadow of the blade swept towards him and a tearing pain surged through his entire body. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, landing heavily on the ground not far away. Xiaoqin took a deep breath. His face was a little pale, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he slowly stood up and raised his right hand. He imitated the figure just now and activated the dark flame palm. Boom! A mountain-splitting and sea-splitting aura surged out from Xiaoqin's palm. Like a long saber cutting through the air, it smashed into the Sand Valley's side wall. This palm seemed to directly break the Sand Valley's side wall. The murderous intent was awe-inspiring. Was this the power of this martial technique? Xiaoqin was completely shocked. He did not expect himself to be able to activate such a powerful palm strike. If he were to use it outside, it would not be a problem for him to surpass his cultivation level. It could even be said that martial masters in the 3rd or 4th layer would be killed instantly by him. It would be child's play. This was simply raising the combat power of a martial technique to the limit. At this moment, Xiaoqin suddenly recovered from his previous enlightenment. He opened his eyes and saw that he was still sitting cross-legged in the Sand Valley. His clothes weren't torn and he wasn't injured. Everything that had happened just now was all an illusion. It was a form of communication through consciousness. It wasn't real. Xiaoqin stood up and came to an empty side wall of the Sand Valley. He circulated the mantra, raised his palm, and slapped the side wall of the Sand Valley. Boom! An unparalleled aura surged out. The side wall of the Sand Valley was directly blasted by Xiaoqin. Although it quickly returned to normal, its power was countless times stronger. Could it be that all of this was real? Had he already comprehended this martial technique and fused it for his own use? Xiaoqin was a little shocked. He tried to activate his palm again, but it was still the same. The power was so great that it surprised Xiaoqin. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then he turned to look at the others. Some people were comprehending while others were practicing. However, those who were practicing did not fully comprehend it. Some people only comprehended a part of it before returning to reality and starting to experiment. These people would continue to comprehend after experimenting. However, not far from Xiaoqin, a person was also activating a powerful martial technique. This person's strength seemed to be only at the first level of a martial master, but the martial technique he was activating shocked Xiao Chen. Although it wasn't as powerful as Xiao Chen's dark flame palm, it wasn't bad either. He was actually activating a martial technique that was similar to the 5th or 6th level of a martial master. If this happened outside, it would simply be shocking. Ha, it's done. I finally comprehended the heavenly Tao and fused the martial technique. Ha, if I go out, I'll be invincible under the same level. That person laughed excitedly. Even if I have to fight an opponent of a higher level, it won't be a problem. May I ask if you've succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao and want to go out? Xiao Chen asked. Xiao Chen had also succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao and fused the martial technique. Therefore there was no point in staying here any longer. His main purpose here was to find his father. Since his father wasn't here, it was better to leave as soon as possible. It just so happened that he didn't know how to get out. This person seemed to know and was about to leave. Xiao Chen planned to go with him. What? You actually noticed me? That person was shocked after hearing Xiao Chen's words. He activated the martial technique and then laughed wildly towards the sky. It was all subconscious, but he didn't want others to know that he had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao. Because if someone knew and spread the news, how would he deal with them? Although he could fight an opponent of a higher level, if a 10th level martial master suddenly appeared, then no matter how powerful he was, it would be useless. And? Xiao Chen was a little stunned. Yes, I want to go out. Do you know how to go out? How about we go together? That person coldly snorted and suddenly attacked without warning. It was obvious that he wanted to silence Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen didn't expect that this person would actually raise his hand and attack. He was caught off guard. He was stunned and hurriedly responded. A dark flame palm struck out and collided with that person's palm. Boom! With a loud sound, that person was directly sent flying. Although he wasn't directly beaten to death, he was covered in dust and vomited blood. You also succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao? That person originally thought that Xiao Chen didn't succeed in comprehending the heavenly Tao, so he wanted to silence Xiao Chen. However, since Xiao Chen had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao, why would he still kill him? The two of them had a common secret. Even if they went out together, they would still keep it a secret. Xiao Chen looked at that person's expression and listened to his words. He roughly guessed why this person wanted to attack. He was a little speechless. The person who had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao in the Sand Valley had just been unwilling to pay attention to them. However, he didn't raise his hand to kill them. Of course, it was also possible that he didn't attack because there were many of them. This person saw that Xiao Chen was alone, so he attacked. That's right. Xiao Chen nodded. Alright, in that case, let's go together, that person said. Xiao Chen checked his body. That person didn't cause him any harm. Although the power of that person's martial arts technique was equivalent to the 5th or 6th stage of a martial master. Oh, Xiao Chen was suddenly shocked. His joy at the improvement of his martial arts technique instantly vanished. The martial arts technique that person displayed just now was indeed at the 5th or 6th stage of a martial master. However, when it hit Xiao Chen's body, Xiao Chen felt that it was only at the 1st stage of a martial master. It was not at the 5th or 6th stage at all. Chapter 633. In other words, the damage this person's technique dealt to him was equal to the person's own strength. What was going on? At the thought, Xiao Chen glanced at the person. That move he'd used in a hurry and hadn't used his full strength, but even so, Xiao Chen's technique could instantly kill a 4th or 5th level martial master, so why couldn't he kill a 1st level martial master? At this moment he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. There was something strange about this Sand Valley. I'm not leaving, you go first. Xiao Chen waved his hand. I'm going to continue my enlightenment. Oh, do whatever you want. The person frowned but didn't say anything else. He turned around and left. Xiao Chen waited for that person to leave before launching another attack at the side wall of the Dune Valley. Boom. Not bad, it was equivalent to a 5th or 7th level martial master, but who would believe that a technique like this couldn't even kill a 1st level martial master? Could it be that the technique's corresponding defense had increased as well? That was impossible, because if one's own strength hadn't increased, how could one's defense have increased? Xiao Chen was a bit doubtful. This wasn't normal at all. Whether it was the power of the technique or the dent on the side walls, it seemed like the technique had increased, but when it actually hit a person, there was no such increase in power. All of a sudden Xiaoqun realized something. That's right, were those people who had comprehended the martial skill really able to hide themselves after leaving the Dao Comprehension Sand Valley? Even if those martial masters hid themselves, had there been no general-level masters who'd come here before? What else did these general-level experts need to hide? Why hadn't there been any news at all? Mao Guang had mentioned this before and Xiaoqun had thought that it made sense, but now that he thought about it, it didn't make sense at all. There were no airtight walls in this world, and from the looks of it, there were people who'd left in a few days, so how could they not have displayed their techniques in front of others? Then what did he improve? Was it just for show? But if that was the case, then what was the point of this Sand Valley of Enlightenment? Nothing improved? Did he come here for nothing? That's right, there's something wrong with this valley. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice rang out beside Xiaoqun's ear. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you think there's something wrong too? Xiaoqun was even more certain of his suspicions after hearing Elder Heaven Ancestor's words. I felt something was wrong before. This valley can actually provide you with energy so you don't need to eat to maintain your bodily functions. Then, I think there's something wrong with this enlightenment as well. Old Sky said, I have been paying attention to you. On the surface, the power of the martial skill you activated has increased by a lot. However, from my point of view, I can tell that the power has not increased at all. It is still the same martial skill from before. It is just that the appearance has become stronger. I think so too. Since that's the case, what's the use of it? Xiaoqun asked curiously. I suspect that someone is controlling this entire valley from behind the scenes, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. His words gave Xiaoqun a fright. He wanted to jump up and cry out in alarm, but Elder Heaven Ancestor hurriedly reminded him, don't act blindly without thinking. I suspect that your every move is being monitored. Don't do anything. If our guess is right, dealing with you in someone else's territory will be a piece of cake. All right, Xiaoqun said calmly. He had communicated with Elder Heaven Ancestor through his spiritual sea, so the outside world couldn't sense it. Then what should I do now? Leave this place? Leave? Do you really think there's such a good thing? That you can leave at will? Elder Heaven Ancestor poured cold water on Xiaoqun, which made him calm down. That's right. If there really is someone manipulating all of this behind the scenes in Sand Valley, it would be unbelievable for him to make so many disguises and deceive so many people just to trick them into leaving, unless this person is a psychopath with a bad taste. Xiaoqun also figured this out. If that was the case, then those who said they would leave should not have left. They should have been tricked by the person behind to do something. Yes, so you are now in a dilemma. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, in this place the entire Sand Valley could be controlled. Even I can't do anything about it. If Elder Heaven Ancestor couldn't do anything, then Xiaoqun didn't know what to do. He regretted coming here, but it was useless. The most important thing now was to find a way out. Elder Heaven Ancestor, then it's meaningless for me to stay here. Why don't we go over there and see what this person wants to do? Xiaoqun asked. No, you continue to comprehend. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, but this time you use martial arts. Don't use the dark flame palm. You use the Samadhi True Fire Fireball technique. Oh, why is that? Xiaoqun asked, feeling somewhat confused. Isn't it the same no matter what you activate? It's not the same. Elder Heaven Ancestor smiled and said, martial arts can create an illusion to deceive you, but the Samadhi True Fire can't. If the Samadhi True Fire improves, then it improves. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. This is a cultivator's skill. You should be able to feel whether the temperature of the true fire has changed or not. This is to judge from the inside, not from the outside. Yes. Xiaoqun immediately understood what Elder Heaven Ancestor meant. Since there was someone behind it, then if Xiaoqun used the Samadhi True Fire and couldn't improve his martial arts, then wouldn't it be a failure? If he didn't want to fail, then the person would inevitably take some action. Either this person would show up, or they would certainly take some remedial measures. It was impossible to just let it go. Thinking of this, Xiaoqun sat down cross-legged once again. He closed his eyes and began to communicate with the aura of the martial intent. Very quickly, Xiaoqun connected with the martial intent and once again entered the consciousness space. It was the same shadow that was brandishing the saber, exactly the same as before. That dark flame palm just now isn't my main martial arts, so it's useless to improve it. Xiaoqun said to himself. Now, I need to improve my main martial arts. The shadow didn't seem to hear Xiaoqun's words and continued to practice the martial arts. Xiaochen also followed him and began to urge the Samadhi true fire, one after another. Sure enough, just like what Elder Heaven Ancestor said, the Samadhi true fire was fire. Even if it hit the side of the sand valley, it wouldn't make any dent. Fire was invisible, so how could it have any effect on the side of the sand valley? Oh, that's not right, why didn't it improve? Xiaochen said to himself with some doubt. It can't be right? It clearly had an effect just now. The shadow seemed to have paused for a moment. However, it was only an imperceptible moment. Xiaochen wasn't sure whether the shadow had paused or not, but he still continued to urge the shadow. There's still no effect. This sand valley isn't deceiving people, right? Xiaochen said tentatively. I have to ask others if there is such a situation. As soon as Xiaochen said this, the shadow's figure paused again. This time it was very obvious that Xiaochen had noticed it. Sure enough, Xiaochen was shocked. This shadow had a consciousness. Whatever he said and did, he knew it. It wasn't a martial intent. However, Xiaochen naturally pretended not to know. He continued to urge the martial arts and said, could it be that my practice was wrong? Xiaochen seemed to feel a surge of resentment coming from the shadow's body. He was angry. Xiaochen was pleasantly surprised. This person had feelings and was angered by him. However, following that, Xiaochen felt as if something had appeared in his mind. An ancient aura shrouded his entire body. Xiaochen was shocked. Was this person trying to harm him? However, after being shrouded by this aura, he didn't feel any discomfort in his body. Instead, he felt a powerful heaven and earth aura pouring into his meridians. What was the meaning of this? Xiaochen was shocked. Where did this heaven and earth aura come from? Moreover, wasn't this heaven and earth aura a little too rich? It was so rich that Xiaochen was a little shocked. This heaven and earth aura was richer than any heaven and earth aura he had ever seen. It had even surpassed the heaven and earth spirit jades. Xiaochen, this person is anxious. He wants to use the bone washing method to improve your martial arts. The Elder Heaven Ancestor's teasing voice sounded in Xiaochen's ear. Now I can be sure of one thing. Although this person is the person behind the Sand Valley, he can't act recklessly in the Sand Valley. He can only establish contact with the people of the Sand Valley through telepathy. However, if he wants to harm the people of the Sand Valley, that should be impossible. Oh? Through bone and marrow cleansing? Xiaochen was stunned. That's right. Warriors actually don't need the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. What they cultivate is strength. Even devil cultivators obtain their strength through some heavenly materials and earthly treasures and pills. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth is only effective for cultivators like you. Warriors actually don't know how to use it. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said, however, rich heaven and earth aura can wash a martial artist's marrow and bones. It's just like how your medicinal dregs can also wash a martial artist's marrow and bones. In that case, this person is afraid that I will tell others, so he plans to use this method to improve my physical fitness in order to achieve the goal of improving my martial arts strength? Xiaochen understood. That should be the case. In this way, if you are a martial artist, then your physical strength won't be improved. Only your aptitude will change, so the power of your martial arts will naturally increase. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said with a smile, it seems like this person is anxious. This martial arts technique of yours might seem strange. From the outside, it can't transform into an increase in power. After all, how can that fireball improve? Therefore, you can only increase the power of your martial arts through genuine internal improvement. Chapter 634. Then what should I do now? Xiaochen asked. Are you stupid or stubborn? What else can you do? There's so much spiritual energy here, it's a waste not to use it. Quickly absorb it and cultivate. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said, this is a great place. You won't be able to find it even if you wanted to. In the cultivation world, this kind of place is rare. Oh. Xiaochen nodded quickly and began to use the mantra. He began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth like crazy. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed through Xiaochen's meridians. It was so refreshing. If my guess is correct, the spirit stones that you used to enter the gate have all been taken away by this fellow. Previously, the energy that kept you from starving in the Sand Valley came from the spirit stones. The spiritual energy of the world was also extracted by the person behind the scenes of the Sand Valley and placed here. Elder Tian said. Wow, how many spiritual stones did that cost? I've struck it rich this time. Xiaochen was overjoyed and quickly cultivated. Soon Xiaochen had entered a state of selflessness. He was crazily absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of him. As he absorbed, he subconsciously muttered, rest for a while. I'll continue practicing martial skills later. I don't believe that I won't improve. The figure seemed to be very satisfied with Xiao Chen's current cooperation. Using spiritual energy to cleanse Xiao Chen's marrow and bones was not something that could be done overnight. If Xiao Chen continued to use martial skills at different times, it would inevitably affect the effect. Now that Xiao Chen was sitting cross-legged on the ground and resting, it was the perfect time to cleanse his marrow and bones. However, what the figure didn't know was that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rushing into Xiao Chen's meridians at a terrifying speed. It circulated rapidly in Xiao Chen's meridians and finally gathered in his dantian. However, very soon the figure felt that something was wrong. Why was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of Xiao Chen becoming less and less? What kind of trash physique was this person? How could he waste so much spiritual energy to cleanse his marrow and bones? He had no choice but to continue replenishing Xiao Chen's heaven and earth spiritual qi. Since he was replenishing himself, Xiao Chen pretended not to notice. He absorbed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth at an incomparably rapid speed, not resting for even a moment. This spirit qi was quickly converted into Xiao Chen's essence qi, accumulating bit by bit in his dantian. From the peak of level 10 of the qi refinement realm, Xiao Chen rushed all the way to the peak of the qi refinement realm. Then, with the continuous impact of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, Xiao Chen only felt a shock in his body. Inside his dantian, something seemed to have broken through. The originally small dantian actually became bigger. If his dantian was like a lake before, then it was now like a vast river, incomparably vast. Xiao Chen was shocked. Is this the foundation building stage? Because he could feel that this was a completely new realm, making him feel like a dragon rising to the heavens. He had suddenly broken free of the shackles, and his strength seemed to have soared by more than one level. Just as Xiao Chen wanted to continue absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to consolidate his foundation building stage, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in front of him began to dissipate. The figure also felt the change in Xiao Chen's physique, so he quickly withdrew the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. This is 2F** King fraudulent. The figure was about to cry. In just a short while, Xiao Chen had consumed a few hundred spiritual stones. Energy should not be consumed in this way. He could only collect 2 spiritual stones for each person who came in. The stock that he had accumulated for a long time was wasted by this kid. This King garbage physique actually used so many spiritual stones to cleanse the marrow and bones. Too garbage, really too garbage. The figure cursed in his heart but did not dare to show it. He continued to practice his martial arts skills. Xiao Chen also knew that enough was enough. Although he felt a little regretful, he still stood up and said, "Hey, why do I feel so relaxed and comfortable? Could it be that I'm a genius and suddenly gained enlightenment again? That must be it. Waha, I'm too much of a genius." When the figure heard this, he wanted to vomit blood. King hell, if you were a genius, then there would be no good-for-nothings. A good-for-nothing, a big piece of trash. He had vaguely scanned Xiao Chen's body just now. This kind of good-for-nothing body could actually cultivate to become a martial master. It was really a miracle. Who knew how many treasures of heaven and earth he had consumed to achieve his current strength? Logically speaking, this kind of garbage physique should not be able to cultivate at all. Even the first level of a martial warrior would be very difficult. However, his thinking was not wrong. From the perspective of a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator, Xiao Chen was indeed a good-for-nothing. If he did not cultivate, he would really be a good-for-nothing. Xiao Chen activated a fireball technique and was immediately overjoyed. The difference between the qi refinement stage and the qi refinement stage was like night and day. Now Xiao Chen felt that his fireball technique was enough to burn a 3rd or 4th layer martial master to death. Hey, but why is this martial arts skills improvement so limited? It doesn't feel like it's improving as fast as the dark flame palm. But this is my main martial arts skill. What's going on? Xiao Chen said with some puzzlement. I have to go out and ask the others to see if they are also like this. If some of their martial arts can't be improved so much, I have to exchange pointers with them. After Xiao Chen said this, although the figure was still brandishing his saber, it was obvious that a powerful rage was being emitted from the figure's body. However, it was very well concealed. Xiao Chen secretly laughed. It seemed that this figure was very afraid of him communicating with others. However, this made Xiao Chen very puzzled. After so long with so many people here, did the others not communicate? In fact, it was understandable. Everyone was very guarded when it came to martial arts cultivation. They would keep their own secrets and no one would share their experience with others. This could be seen from the person who wanted to kill Xiaoqin to silence him. If someone succeeded in comprehending the Tao, they would not easily tell others. This also gave the figure behind the Sand Valley an opportunity. However, he did not expect that there would be such an exception like Xiaoqin. However, in the next moment, the overwhelming spiritual energy swept over again. The figure also clearly discovered that Xiaoqian's body was too trashy and useless. How did this person become a martial master? It was too strange. Just now, so much spiritual energy was thrown over, but it seemed to have little effect. If it was any other martial artist, they would have already been transformed into a peerless genius. When Xiaoqin felt the spiritual energy coming again, he was immediately overjoyed. He quickly sat cross-legged and said, It seems that the comfortable feeling from just now is coming again. I can sit cross-legged on the ground and continue to comprehend the Tao. I am really a genius to be able to find such a convenient method. I don't even need to practice martial arts. The figure was so angry that he cursed in his heart. Motherf *Ker, you are a piece of trash that only appears once in 1,000 years. Xiaoqin hurriedly cultivated like crazy. This was a very rich spiritual energy. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no such opportunity. Therefore, Xiaoqin took advantage of the fact that this figure was easy to deceive and began to cultivate like crazy. Xiaoqin, be careful. Don't go too far. Don't expose yourself. The Elder Heaven Ancestor reminded him. I understand. However, this is a good opportunity. If I don't take advantage of it, I really don't know how long I will have to wait. Right now, I don't have any spiritual jades. Cultivation is getting harder and harder. If I don't have any opportunities, I won't be able to advance. Therefore, even if it's risky, I have to give it my all. Xiaoqin said. How could he not know that he was asking a tiger for its skin? However, there was no other way. The temptation of this spiritual energy was too great. The Elder Heaven Ancestor did not say anything else. Anyway, it seemed that there was no danger at the moment. The foundation building realm was completely different from the qi refining realm. Xiaoqin felt that his dantian was very big. No matter how much he absorbed the spiritual energy, it was still not enough. His strength was also increasing very slowly. Even though Xiaoqin had already prepared himself mentally, he still felt helpless about this situation. It was really too slow. If it was like this in such a dense spiritual energy, how difficult would it be to reach the peak of the first level of foundation building? Under Xiaoqin's frenzied absorption, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of him became thinner and thinner. The figure seemed to have noticed this as well. Left with no other choice, he replenished Xiaoqin's spiritual energy. Xiaoqin did not care about him. He continued to absorb spiritual energy like crazy. The spiritual energy flowed into his body. Seeing that it was about to be used up, Xiaoqin wondered if the figure would replenish more spiritual energy for him. However, Xiaoqin was disappointed. His method of wasting spiritual energy was so wasteful that even the figure could not take it. The figure seemed to let out a low growl. He felt a little heartache and unwillingness, so he did not continue to replenish spiritual energy for Xiaoqin. The figure was about to go crazy from anger. This person's aptitude was so bad. Why did he enter the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley? He should just be an ordinary person. Which sect was this disciple from? Which sect would accept this kind of trash? He checked and found that Xiaoqin's constitution had indeed improved a little, but not much. What he didn't know was that Xiaoqin had already used large amounts of medicine to temper his body. The change in his constitution now was only a negligible effect brought about by the increase in strength. Xiaoqin knew that it was about time, so he stood up and activated a fireball technique. He then said in surprise, that's great. My technique has finally improved. Then I have to get out of here. There's no point in staying here. The figure heaved a sigh of relief, but he cursed in his heart. Damn it, what did you come here for? Did you have nothing better to do? Xiaoqin returned to reality and stood up. He saw that not far away, Sun Maoguang and Xiao Xiaobai were still comprehending, but Xiaoqin couldn't care less about them. He had to leave now. If he caused more trouble, the mastermind of the Sand Valley would explode. Xiaoqin didn't hesitate and turned to leave, quickly heading to the other side of the Sand Valley. This time he was alone and did not travel with anyone else. Hence, Xiaoqin was able to travel faster. When the figure saw Xiaoqin's speed, he heaved a sigh of relief. So he was a speed-type fighter. However, seeing that his skills were quite solid, he reckoned that he would be of great help to him. In that case, the spiritual chi he had used earlier was not wasted. In any case, wool comes from sheep. With that thought, the figure felt a little better and continued to scam others. He didn't care about Xiaoqin anymore. Now that he was there, he would naturally have to work for him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.